Chapter 1053 Drive. Chapter 1053 Drive. Proofreader, Papatonks. Orders. On the border between northern lands and the central area, the forces of the other three lands had transferred, with each taking a region and awaiting orders. Western lands experts under Luo Alliance's leadership were the same, anxiously awaiting at the border for the next radical order. The northern wind carried with it a sudden shout. The soldiers landed from up above before each faction, speaking at the top of their lungs. Whoosh! Luo Yunhai and many other generals from western lands were growing impatient in the commanding tent. Another order's here. I wonder what's Brother Zhuo's plan in the face of such a desperate crisis? We already lost 3 lands, and there's no place to retreat now. With all having been going according to Steward Zhuo's plan, then the third order must be fighting back. Zhuge Changfeng rubbed his beard, his face solemn, his eyes shining with hope. The question is, how outrageous and weird is it this time? Ha ha ha. I'm eager to see Steward Zhuo in action one more time. The others nodded, their brow quivering with excitement. Whoosh! One soldier landed in the Luo clan's camp, bowing. Grand Marshal of the Alliance, Sir Zhuo, orders half of Luo Alliance's strong to defend northern lands' borders. The man presented a jade slip, one that could only come from Sea Bright sect. That's it. Luo Yunhai was puzzled. Brother Zhuo had us come here to protect northern lands. If it's just that, the previous preparations mean nothing. We had been better off waiting for death, and happy with it behind our strong defenses. This is unlike Steward Zhuo's style. Lung Wuchang held his chin in doubt. The soldier cupped his hands with a smile. Luo clan head, this order has only been given to you, while the other forces have different tasks. The rest have other orders? What is it? They all cried out. Turning heavy, the soldier scanned their faces and spoke. Grand Marshal ordered for southern lands and eastern lands, along with western lands remaining half troops to march towards Sea Bright sect. You are to kill Invincible Sword Bailey Yutian at all costs. What? SSS. The jaws of Luo leaders hit the ground the same way it did to the oldies back in the sect. The order had been relayed at the other camps just then, and shouts of shock came without stop. The Grand Marshal's third order was pure insanity. He wanted to focus all their efforts into taking down the strongest monster of the 5 lands, Invincible Sword. Zhuge Changfeng, Lung Wuchang and Yu Ming stood dumbstruck, then laughed in realization. I get it now. Steward Zhuo is a genius. Ha ha ha. Only they laughed, while the rest were still looking like statues, giving them odd looks. What's going on? Why? They looked at them so wild with joy, letting their laughter free, but also sensing sorrow as tears glistened in their eyes. Steward Zhuge. Luo Yunhai began in worry. Zhuge Changfeng shook his hand, and the trio gradually calmed down, turning bleak even. So many years have gone, yet Steward Zhuo is still the same. We just can't surpass him. Yeah. What's with you 3? Luo Yunhai was bemused. Zhuge Changfeng bowed to him and sighed. Clan head, you know of us having lost to Steward Zhuo back in the day. We've been working these years and assisting clan head also to compete with him. What he did back then, we could do it too, but now we have lost in such a way we finally accept the truth. We will never measure up to Steward Zhuo's one aspect for as long as we live. What? Drive. The trio spoke in unison. Zhuge Changfeng continued with a heavy heart. Clan head, what do you think about a beggar being harassed on the street? Luo Yunhai gave him a confused look, but seeing their cryptic smiles he said, a beggar is being harassed due to his status. If he rises above his station, he will be free of any harassment. Ha ha ha, yes, riches can lessen your attackers. Zhuge Changfeng continued. Then clan head, what if a merchant was held down by a politician? Luo Yunhai was more confused than ever, but he looked at the other smile and spoke firmly. Money can buy anything. Since some politician is pushing against him, he just has to find a bigger supporter to fight back. Yes, using one's assets in exchange for even bigger assets and gaining much more, one step at a time. This is what we 3 have been doing these years. Zhuge Changfeng sighed, his eyes filled with sadness. From harassed beggars, we became merchants. From oppressed merchants we entered service. But our every progress was met with more suppression, never able to escape it our entire lives. This is who we are. But Steward Zhua is different from us in this tiny yet crucial aspect. The Luo clan had defeated in 10 years all the other houses, and wielded all the power in Tianyu. This is something we could never achieve. Luo Yunhai's heart shook. How is it different? Clan head, how can a beggar never be harassed in his life? Zhuge Changfeng smiled as he asked instead of replying. Luo Yunhai frowned in confusion. Zhuge Changfeng saw him unresponsive and shouted, Clan head, to never be harassed again, one must stand above everyone else. The beggar must become emperor to feel truly safe. How is that possible? Luo Yunhai was baffled. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. Yes, it's quite the fairy tale, isn't it? But isn't our Luo alliance today also a fairy tale to the old Luo clan? Luo Yunhai pondered and then turned solemn. This is where we are different from Steward Zhua. His drive is unlike any other. Lung Wuchang patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder. We never actually accepted when he defeated us back then, since we are no less shrewd than he is. The 3 sages of Tianyu aren't just for show. Only now do we understand that our vision isn't as broad as his. Our horizon is narrow and our drive weaker. The invincible sword is the core of the Sword Star Empire. We knew this, but he's too strong, deterring us from even considering him. The price to pay is just too great, with little chance to succeed. Steward Zhua had set his eyes on him from the start, burning bridges and abandoning the lands, so that he could face the core issue. He has such drive none of us is capable of. Having now been made aware of his plan, we realize the truth. A land has around 30 million men, with half meaning 15. Against such a force, Bailey Jingwei had no chance of providing timely assistance, no matter how desperate. While the 2 lands and a half of soldiers will make close to 100 million. Invincible sword is tough, so much so he can handle a land by himself. But what can even he do against the likes of such a combined attack? Using all those countless lives against just one? Who would have the nerve to do this? Not even we considered this course before hearing the order. This is also why the Sword Star Empire will eventually collapse. Steward Zhua's order is a masterstroke of the ages. I bet that not even Bailey Jingwei would dream that Steward Zhua would take this action. Luo Yunhai's brow shook, then he looked at the starry sky with a smile. Yes, you stewards are right. I can still remember the day the clan was made of 4 people, staying in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, and Brother Zhua coming out to proclaim that the Luo clan will stand at the top. None of us believed him. But now, ha ha ha. Brother Zhua is a man who only saw the very peak. There's nothing he wouldn't dare or do. That is my brother Zhua. Luo clan's first steward is our patron saint. The trio nodded in agreement. Brother Zhua had us stop to protect us. Lung Wuchang bowed. It's way easier to fight Bailey Jingwei and Dragon Cleaving Sword King's army than going to war with a madman like the Invincible Sword. Yes, you guys sure got the easiest job this time. The soldier spoke with reverie. It's good to have someone left behind in court. Others, I bet, must be sinking in despair from being stuck with hunting Invincible Sword. Right on cue, howls of grief tore at the sky and endless tears soaked the earth. Chapter 1054, Outrage. Chapter 1054, Outrage. Proofreader, Papatonks. What's going on? Why the sudden commotion in the enemy camp? The 3 land forces wailed and grieved like their own funeral hearing. They were sent to die fighting that monster Invincible Sword. The thick air of despair and anguish leaked all the way to the central area's army camp. Bailey Jingwei was still smug in his belief that he broke Zhua Fan's empty city tactic and took the 3 lands without losses. That guy must be wallowing in his defeat right about now, being rebuked by all the other leaders. But then the sudden widespread grief had him flinch. A scout burst into the tent. Prime Minister. For some reason there is a sharp increase in forces on the northern lands side. Their howls alone travel for thousands of miles. From what I've seen, they have now tripled their numbers. Tripled? How? Where did northern lands get so many people? Bailey Jingwei was confused, but then he exclaimed with a mocking smile. Oh, since the empty city tactic fizzled out, The lands had no choice but to converge here. Humph, they're nothing but deserters with lower morale. Of course they'll cry. Tell the army to raise defenses for when the cornered dog makes an assault. Yes, sir. The man left. Bailey Jingwei looked mighty pleased, humming a tune. He even started dancing. Whoosh! Dan Qingshun entered the tent and paused, taken aback. Prime Minister, what got you so excited about? Ha ha ha, Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, you're just in time to hear the good news. The war against the Four Lands will be done in 3 months. I'll be sure to put on a good word to the Patriarch when merit is given back in court. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King has always wanted to rule over your paradise? After the unification, that area will be set aside for you to oversee. Oh, I am most thankful, Prime Minister, ha ha ha. Dan Qingshun nodded, but his heart sank. He made sure to hide his worries, though, behind his smile. Prime Minister, weren't you saying it's going to take a year? Why so soon all of a sudden? Bailey Jingwei leaned back with immense pride. We have to thank my old opponent for that. Zhuofan's empty city tactic, ha ha ha. His tactic got exposed and ended up delivering the 3 lands to us. Now Northern Lands' borders have increased activity, mostly from the other lands' forces teleporting in. In other words, the other lands are ripe for the taking. We will crush their teleportation arrays in a week, and the lands are as good as ours. Then in half a month, the 3 armies will be called here and defeat Northern Lands together. That will give him no room to escape. But with 4 lands united, the Northern Lands border will be even stronger. It won't be easy taking it down. Dan Qingshun sat at the table and sipped from his teacup, not looking pleased at all. Knowing his thoughts, Bailey Jingwei smirked. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, have you forgotten how Patriarch's team is out there and are waiting for the right time to strike? With both of us working together, Northern Lands will be weakened and wide open for attack. Now must be the 9th day. Patriarch will act on the 10th. With attacks coming from within and outside, we'll just see how long they'll last. Humph. Dan Qingshun's brow shook at Bailey Jingwei's celebrating tone. He lowered his head and just sipped tea, in his own thoughts. Bailey Jingwei glanced over with a scoff. The worst sinner in the lands, hated by millions, Zhuofan Gu Yifan. I will be sure to raise his monument in every land to be remembered by, he. Though I've yet to settle on the right name. Report. The sudden shout broke his bliss as the soldier rushed to bow and stammer. A jade slip arrived from the enemy's side. Please take a look, Prime Minister. Bailey Jingwei gave it a look and chuckled. He doesn't even care if he's found out, sending jade slips all the time. But with the situation crystal clear, it won't matter even if they're discovered. Prime Minister. The soldier grimaced. The jade slip is a secret message and under a seal. We can't open it. Bailey Jingwei shook and froze in a frown. He sent a secret message to me? Is it that crucial? The situation is obvious. The Sea-Bright sex barrier is broken. So what could be so important? Does that guy have a way to reverse things even in this clear-cut scenario? Give it to me. Bailey Jingwei gestured for the guard, and he presented it. Dan Qingshun sighed. Is it the spy in Northern Lands again? Yes. Patriarch would have a hard time breaking the Sea-Bright sect, so I took precautions. While he hasn't gotten the heaven-sealing sword, he proved his use by sending intel on Gu Yifan, being the Grand Marshal of the Four Lands. Bailey Jingwei knew Dan Qingshun would have figured it out in the end, so he didn't deny it. He made a sign, and the jade slip was unsealed for him to read. He was better off not knowing anything, for the information shocked him to the core. His hand relaxed and the jade slip broke as it hit the floor. Dan Qingshun paused, seeing the great Prime Minister Bailey lose his cool. Prime Minister, are you all right? Zhuofan, you're brutal. Bailey Jingwei took a good while to come to, but now his face was twisted, his nails digging into his palms till he bled. Bailey Jingwei looked savage. I knew he shouldn't be left alive. He's terrifying in the command of the Four Lands. He actually found out my greatest worry, and still dares to use it. Ruthless, cruel, shrewd. Bailey Jingwei couldn't even finish from sheer outrage. He then barked, guard. Thump. A soldier rushed inside and on his knee. Prime Minister orders. Attack. Right now. Bailey Jingwei shrieked. Tell all men to attack the northern land's border and punch through them. Ah, don't give me that. Prime Minister, but didn't you just order us to raise defenses? The men are doing it as we speak. Pa! Bailey Jingwei slapped him hard and cussed. When the hell did I give you such an order? I want you to charge now. Send every last man to the northern land's border, and get me an opening. Yes. The soldier shook in fear then left in haste. Bailey Jingwei paced around the tent in great distress, like he was a different person from before. He has lost his calm and shook all over like a scared mouse. Today's the 9th day, and that means Patriarch will attack tomorrow. His appearance will paint 100 million targets on him. If something happens to the Patriarch, Zhuofan, you son of a she-dog, damn you to hell. Tell the other 3 armies to get to northern lands right now. Bailey Jingwei roared at the first soldier. The man bobbed his head and went right to it, away from the Prime Minister's wrath. Bailey Jingwei was still uneasy, unable to sit on his chair as he was sweating bullets. The armies have invaded the lands for 3 days, and they'll need that much time to return to the borders. Then they'll need 3 more days to use the teleportation arrays. 6 damn days. Will Patriarch be able to last the endless flood of men chipping at him for so long? Zhuofan, god damn you for making me do this. Bailey Jingwei roared like a madman. Dan Xingshun was startled, then he smirked. Prime Minister, did something happen? Nothing. Bailey Jingwei shook then gave him a look. He gnashed his teeth as he tried swallowing the fury. The foreign sword kings must never know Zhuofan is after the Patriarch, or they'll only make things worse. Zhuofan is a true mastermind with his devious plans. He now has me trapped without a single hope to fight back. At least I left a spy there to inform me or else. Bailey Jingwei squinted, feeling a chill crawl up his spine. He's an abomination. Chapter 1055 Besieged. Chapter 1055 Besieged. Proofreader Papatonks. Report. Bailey Jingwei flinched at this ominous word, and his heart almost stopped. A soldier rushed inside to present a jade slip. What now? Bailey Jingwei's face twitched and felt like crying. He was scared things could actually get worse than they already were. The soldier sweated, unaware of his Prime Minister's worry. Prime Minister, the imperial capital is in urgent need of rescue. His Majesty makes an earnest request of military aid. Of the 3,820 cities, 565 have fallen. To make matters worse, the revolution is only gaining more ground. The city lords can't stop the flood. It's that desperate. Bailey Jingwei was shaken up. Does that mean the disturbance wasn't on a small scale but a full-blown riot? But who has such power in the central area? Wait, is it Serene Shores Trading? Bailey Jingwei's face twitched and turned savage with fury. Damn those merchants. After purging their base, the sudden vanishing of all their branches led me to believe they scattered like flies, when they were waiting for me to show my back. Humph, soldier. Tell Winesword Immortal to lead his men back to quell the riots. Prime Minister, Winesword Immortal is deep in northern lands and requires 3 days at the least to return. Also, Dan Xingshun picked up on the clues and said, you just ordered them to teleport to northern lands, but the imperial capital doesn't have a moment to spare. Let's split our forces and settle the fires. Guard, stop the charge. We're going back to save the empire. Dan Xingshun had yet to finish before Bailey Jingwei cut him off. Wait. We can't leave, just charge. You must charge. Prime Minister, a rebellion is upon us. We must provide aid and quell it before it endangers the empire. Dan Xingshun tested. Even if we split our forces with our defenses, we're sure to last a few weeks. It'll be enough for us to quell the revolution and make it back. Not to mention the other 3 armies are coming soon. In just 6 days. We will hold out. You might hold out, but the Patriarch can't keep a hold of his head. We're in a race for time where every second counts, where every moment might mean the death of the Patriarch and the collapse of the empire. All that matters is for Patriarch to survive, to keep hope alive. Everything can be regained even if lost in this moment. The empire may go in flames for all I care, but the Patriarch must still stand. Zhuofan, you rotten son of a b-dash. Bailey Jingwei crunched his teeth, shaking all over. Was all of it part of his plan? All of it is to stall me? That was no empty city tactic, but bait to lure the three armies away from the teleportation arrays, and not provide timely rescue, earning him 6 days of peace. Then there's the Empire's insurrection, besieging me on all fronts. In 6 days I can pacify the Empire, but not save Patriarch, which would still lead to its fall. And if I choose to save Patriarch, I won't break their lines in a mere 6 days, all while the fires rage in the imperial capital. Or maybe the revolution will cut off our reinforcements, hindering us further to delay the rescue. Either way, the game is lost before it starts. He crushed me. Bailey Jingwei went limp, falling in his chair with dead eyes. Prime Minister, what's wrong? Dan Qingshan held him. Bailey Jingwei looked bleak and in despair. He played me from the very beginning. The board is out of my control. I never dreamed my greatest advantage had become my downfall at that guy's devious planning. Zhuofan, Bailey Jingwei wailed, filled with denial and regret. Achoo! Zhuofan sniffed in Seabright Sec's main hall, and then shivered. Ling Yuntian smiled. Sir Zhua, did you catch a cold perhaps? Since when does a cultivator catch a cold? Zhuofan rolled his eyes. My ears are burning. That Bailey Jingwei punk must be cursing me, humph. The others chuckled, with Morong Lai praising. Only Sir Zhua could call a genius like Bailey Jingwei a punk. Sir Zhua's plan is ingenious and praiseworthy. Reports are coming from the front line saying Bailey Jingwei flipped out, ordering to storm our defenses. He must have known about Sir Zhua's plan and gone insane, ha ha ha. He's reacting already. Zhuofan paused, then nodded with a smile. I see. What? I see there's a spy among you. Zhuofan gave them a deep look. They all cried out. How can Sir say that? Bailey Jingwei fell for my first 2 tricks, and still followed my expectation until my 3rd one. But how did he find out about it so fast? And I also made sure to light the Empire on fire. He should split his men to save it. Even if he guessed my intentions, still having doubts, he'd never ignore the Empire in peril. Zhuofan's eyes flashed as he looked over the oldies. The answer couldn't be simpler. He didn't guess my plan but was certain of it. How? Only if someone told him. That's why he flipped out and started a mad charge. The men gasped. We have a traitor? Who? Everyone looked at each other in suspicion. Zhuofan smiled and waved without worry. Not that it matters. Covert operations are about mind games, about laying traps and running the minute it's exposed, unlike an overt plan. It won't affect the plan if others realize it. I had his 3 armies stalled in the 3 lands, losing precious time to come back. He is also stuck even with charging the northern lands, not having the manpower to break through the lines anytime soon. It is this time that will earn us victory. Sir Zhua, did you foresee a traitor among us? Ling Yuntian asked Zhuofan. Zhuofan nodded. Seabright Sec's barrier is strong, something I'm sure Bailey Jingwei knew beforehand, since he planned to attack it at some point. Spies are a must in wars, which is why I foresaw a spy among us. That's why I didn't tell you, nor explain my orders in detail. Now it won't make a difference, because the enemy is stuck in my trap, ha ha ha. Sir Zhua is godlike. Everyone looked in awe at Zhuofan, in awe of his skills. Only Morong Shui looked askance with a cold face. Though she might abhor Zhuofan, she had to give the man credit for his methods. He is the vilest devil, a demon archon with unlimited appetite for destruction and blood. Once the war is over, he must be removed for good. What man would throw away 100 million lives for victory? Zhuofan noticed it was getting dark and grinned. Friends, the time limit to deal with Invincible Sword is 6 days. Any later and Bailey Jingwei would have all the army assembled, and anything can happen. We have to kill Invincible Sword within this period. The men grew solemn and nodded. Shangguan Feixiong smiled, holding out his dear sword. Zhuofan, you haven't unsealed it last time since you were in jail, and used it as leverage. Now you are our Grand Marshal, one of us. I still want to fight Invincible Sword, and can't do it without Soaring Sword. Of course. Zhuofan's right eye flashed in 2 golden halos at the Scarlet Sword. Divine Eye of the Void's 2nd stage, Void Annihilation. Bam! The sword shuddered, then shone a bright red as it flew around, having regained its freedom. The people stared agape. That's it. The soaring sword is unsealed just like that? Doesn't that make us all fools for toiling over it for a year? They all looked at Zhuo Fan with shock and awe. Zhuo Fan is a miracle worker, and not just a mastermind. Shangguan Feixiong beamed as he looked at the divine sword. He made a sign and the sword fell in his grip. Thank you so much for this immense help. It's fine, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan had no shame in his casual attitude, but then Shangguan Feixiong turned heavy. The hell would I do thanking you? That was your duty to begin with. This was part of our first deal. Zhuo Fan grinned. Ling Yuntian smiled, stepping between the two and saying, Shangguan clan head, you're wrong there. He only said about giving you the sword, and not in what condition. Now Sir Zhuo unsealed it, so how can you say that? Yeah, you. Fine, now your soaring sword is back to you, so go on. Ling Yuntian urged him to the side before beaming at Zhuo Fan. Sir Zhuo, the soaring sword is settled. Now it's about ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. When will your guard be returning with it? Oh, her. You'll meet her when you see Bailey Yutian. What, they gasped. Zhuo Fan had an evil grin. Hasn't she already told you who she is? Since she's Frigid Rain Sword King, then she'll take Heaven Sealing Sword to Bailey Yutian. Since you'll be meeting that old man soon, you can ask him for it. What? Their hearts sank at Zhuo Fan's devastating news. Is Sir Zhuo working with Bailey Yutian? Chapter 1056, Sending Off. Chapter 1056, Sending Off. Proofreader Papatonks. Everyone looked at Zhuo Fan, as if he grew a second head. Morong Shui was the one most affected, but then she lashed out. See that? I knew he's not dependable, yet you all insisted on trusting him. He used the Heaven Sealing Sword to bait you all this time, only to tell us now that the divine sword is with Invincible Sword. He was playing us all along. Zhuo Fan smirked. The men frowned and hesitated, with Ling Yuntian gathering the courage only to be supplicant. Sir Zhuo, you promised us that you'll return the Heaven Sealing Sword, so why? Yes, I did, and I am. Go see Invincible Sword and ask him to give it back. Ling Yuntian was on the verge of tears. Isn't that twisting words, Sir Zhuo? The old monster came from it specifically, and now that he has it, you think he'll be a fool to just give it back? Heh, you're not that far off the mark there, hee hee. Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow, complimenting his evil smile. The others were bemused. Zhuo Fan gestured for Ling Yuntian to come on over to lend his ear. Didn't you just say he came for Heaven Sealing Sword? When you see him, tell him that it was not him who took it. Zhuo Fan acted like he shared his deepest secrets, showing a confident smile. Ling Yuntian frowned in doubt. That's it? You don't believe me? Has my plan ever failed? Zhuo Fan gave an insidious smile, acting like he was counting his greatest hits. When Bailey Yu couldn't steal your sword and pass the barrier, it was my idea that had her succeed. When Bailey Jingwei attacked all lands, you were all being hysterical in despair. Yet it was I who broke the invasions. Now the hunt for Bailey Yutian, the same thing that is now driving Bailey Jingwei insane, is my idea too, no? Has any of them failed? You still doubt me after all this? Ling Yuntian pondered and relented a nod. Yes, Sir Zhuo has shown great success in every aspect, a man of integrity and infallible genius. I'm fortunate you're on our side, or else our end would have come far quicker. Then, when we'll look for Invincible Sword tomorrow, we'll just do as Sir Zhuo said. I just hope it'll prove as effective as all plans. Of course it will work, now go. With the Heaven Sealing Sword back, your 3 swords will make light work of him. Zhuo Fan shooed him away, shouting at the rest. The plan can't be clearer now, so just go grasp victory. If anything happens, I'll be sure to amend the plan from the back. The others nodded and bowed before leaving. Then we shall take our leave. We are grateful for Sirs overseeing the battlefield. Zhuo Fan found himself in the spacious hall with his dear Chu Qingcheng, Qiaoren, Morong Shui. What are you still doing here? Zhuo Fan gave her an odd look. For now all is quiet. With them going away, shouldn't you do the same? I'm watching you. Watching? Yes. Morong Shui stared with an icy gaze. You're one sick man, backstabbing and traitorous. One moment you're with Invincible Sword, the next you're giving advice to us. Nothing about you is trustworthy. I am never going to leave you out of my sight, stopping you from doing something that will plunge the world into hell. Morong Shui sat in a chair unmoving, but her eyes bore into Zhuo Fan every second, making her presence most off-putting. Don't you try anything, I got my eye on you. Man, she's a pain. Zhuo Fan smirked and walked to Chu Qingqing's side. Miss Morong is welcome to stay, I won't tell you to go. But me and my wife have been so long apart that, with these days detained over some trifles, that only makes me anticipate our time together. So as two might be doing something inappropriate for public display. Miss Morong is, of course, welcome to stay and gain much knowledge on the subject. I sure don't mind. Maybe Miss will also like some hands-on teaching, ha ha ha. Why you? Morong Shui blushed hard and grew irate. Her purty eyes stared daggers at him. Unable to come up with any retort, she ended up flicking her hand and leaving. Humph, all men are rotten to the core. Be careful not to include your brother as well. But seriously now, you don't want to gain early practice? It's all gonna pay up later. Drop dead. Zhuo Fan knew no shame, his voice traveling outside the hall and making her yell even harder. Zhuo Fan chuckled. Then he turned to the dull-eyed Chu Qingqing with grief. Shower, call Wu Qingqiu, Shui Ruohua and the others. Don't let anyone know. Yes, father. Xiao replied seriously and left. Just a stone's throw away from the main hall, Morong Shui still hadn't given up on watching him. She then noticed Xiao leaving and her heart sank, actually believing Zhuo Fan's words. Pervert. Your wife is like that and you want. Humph, shameless bastard. Morong Shui huffed and left as well. Inside the main hall, Zhuo Fan and Chu Qingqing were now alone. Looking at her gentle face and her white hair, heartbroken like he was with Ninger, Zhuo Fan's eyes grew hazy, taking out a comb, and started running it through her long silky locks. Qingqing, we may be married, but I've never been completely honest with you. Zhuo Fan teared up. I am not from here. In fact, I shouldn't even be before you. I am a demonic emperor, bearing heavy sins, bringing chaos and destruction wherever I go. Maybe the heavens wished for this. Ninger suffered and now you. I knew pain would be coming, and wanted to distance myself from you. But why did you still have to take the same path I treaded? Haha, no. You have far deeper feelings for me than I had for Ninger back then. I at least did not lose my mind. I just can't fathom what these bloody executioner hands did to deserve your love. The comb trembled in his hand, his voice heavy. I have lived 2 lives, yet never had anyone wishing to stay with me with all their heart. First was Ninger, but she no longer remembers me. I felt my heart torn in 2, but I was glad for her that she would no longer suffer any longer. The second is you. You forgot me as well, but I feel such a deep pain in my heart. Qingqing, I do wish for you to forget me, but I hope you'd always recall me as well. Qingqing, tomorrow I'm going to the North Sea and might die. I hope that you'll remember me before I go. I know that this might cause you pain once more, but I'm selfish and really hope that I am not just a passing phase in your heart. I do. The comb stopped, and he kneeled before her, resting his head on her knees, choking with emotion and shaking all over. Whoosh! A breeze ran through the white hair as Chu Qingqing's eyes teared up as well. Her fair hands trembled and lowered her head, looking at the shaking figure she hadn't seen for 5 years with a gentle gaze. One hand reached and touched Zhuo Fan's head. Brother Zhuo. Chu Qingqing shuddered at the sudden interruption, and her hand returned to its position, the light in her eyes fading once more. Zhuo Fan got up and strained himself to appear casual as Wu Qingqiu, Yi Lin, Shui Ruohua, and everyone arrived in the main hall. Behind them was Qiao. Wu Qingqiu cupped his hands. Brother Zhuo is now the Grand Marshal of our lands. We wanted to see you for days but couldn't. What could have had the Grand Marshal summon us? Ha ha ha, Brother Wu, what's this about Grand Marshal? We're all friends here. I only have a small request. Brother Wu, don't forget you lost our bet in the dungeon. You owe me a favor. Ha ha ha, so that's what it is. Brother Zhuo wants to cash in so soon? Wu Qingqiu laughed. Sure, Brother Zhuo. I'll be sure to do all I can to fulfill a brother's request. The others nodded as well with shining eyes. Helping Chu Qingqing stand, he went to Shui Ruohua and Zhuo Fan said earnestly, Northern lands is fraught with danger. Help me take Qingqing back to western lands. The 3 attacking armies should now be in full retreat, so you can use the teleportation array to return to Double Dragon Manor. It's the safest choice. Chapter 1057, 10th Day. Chapter 1057, 10th Day. Proofreader Papatonks. We shall follow Brother Zhuo's order to the letter. Wu Qingqiu replied on the spot. The question now is when? Immediately. Even if we're in the Seabright sect, war will be coming soon, and it will no longer be safe. I hope to get Qingqing out as soon as possible. Sure, we will go right now. Wu Qingqiu and the others bowed. Brother Zhuo, take care. Take care. Zhuofan cupped his hand as they took Chu Qingqing away. But she shot her hand to clutch Zhuofan's, her grip strong. Zhuofan's eyes shook with hope. Qingqing, you're awake, ugh. But those empty eyes reflected his downcast face. Zhuofan, it's just Qingqing's instinct. She'll need more time for her mind to recover. Shui Ruohua sighed and spoke morosely. She then took Chu Qingqing's hand to leave, but the grip on Zhuofan's hand only tightened, her fingers digging into his skin and drawing blood. Zhuofan didn't even register the pain, his gaze always on Chu Qingqing as he spoke in a heavy tone. Qingqing, I'm doing this to keep you safe. I will come back to you, I promise. Chu Qingqing shook, but it was clear Zhuofan's promise eased her heart as her grip eased. Shui Ruohua quickly took her hand back. The others finally relaxed and bowed to Zhuofan once more before leaving with Chu Qingqing. Yi Lin had vowed again and again that he would definitely make sure sister-in-law would be safe and sound. Zhuofan smiled, feeling relieved to leave her in their care, having complete trust in them for already looking after Chu Qingqing for the past 5 years. Zhuofan gazed at the sky and noticed dawn was just around the corner. Zhuofan said, Everything's ready, Qiaoer. Let's go as well. Where? North Sea. Zhuofan's gaze was set. Qiao asked, Father, aren't you leading the Four-Land Alliance? What are they going to do in case of an incident? Let those clowns deal with it. Zhuofan's eyes shone and smirked. When 2 fight, the third party wins in this stalemate. Central area, and the 4 lands are of similar strength. They would kill until they dye the skies red, and cover the earth in corpses, with neither side coming on top. When we return from the North Sea, we will find the world has changed overnight. Our power will also expand in these circumstances, patching up our way to the top once more, ha ha ha. Zhuofan flew towards the North Sea shore, with Qiaoer smiling behind him. In the glorious light of a new day's dawn, the father and daughter began their journey. What of the Seabright sect's barrier, one might ask? Nothing of it, since Zhuofan's apocalyptic thunderflame could poke a hole in it, especially since the heaven-sealing sword was conveniently removed, making the barrier so much weaker. It was simply a joke for a man of his caliber. While they were out hiking, the same joke, it would seem, applied to one other person, far better than to Zhuofan. Rumble. Thunder cracked the sky as purple lightning exploded in 1,000 branches. The barrier of Seabright sect cracked like eggshells, bringing fresh sea air into the sect, or maybe doom. The purple lightning formed thousands of swords waved up above, looming dangerously over the sect. Even Genesis stage experts felt numb under the sea of purple. Their breaths faltered, and their immense yuan qi slowed down to a trickle. Mere pressure was enough to bring the sect to its knees. Such was the power of the purple curtain. The leaders of the 4 lands came out to see what was all the ruckus, to gasp in fear and despair. Invincible sword is here. Invincible sword now. Morong Shui glanced at the purple attack hanging above him and gasped. Is this the effect of Invincible sword's attacks? It's so much more terrifying than my brother's. How is he still human? Morong Lai gripped the golden burning longsword, but his brow was soaked. Invincible sword is no human, or he wouldn't be anything great, humph. The others gave a weak nod, with some even faltering back. Such was the might of Invincible sword, dreading his coming before even meeting him. Not even the highest power in other lands could fight the fear. Boom! Explosions rang everywhere, followed by savage winds and wails of demise throughout the Seabright sect. Blood sprayed so high it reached the heavens, mixing with the purple lightning, and turning the world of mortals into a hellscape. It sapped any bit of courage one might have. The winds then made sure to bring the stench of blood to every corner of the sect, completing the carnage. Sect leader. Invincible sword has come with 5 sword kings and 10 disciples. He broke the barrier and is slaughtering us. Whoosh. A bloody elder arrived in a panic, howling with grief. We've already lost tens of thousands of experts. Please save us, sect leader. Ling Yuntian was distressed as well. Turning to the others, Ling Tian Morong clan head, exalted double dragons and everyone else, we set ourselves on killing the old monster with numbers, and now he came to us himself. We'll do as Serjua planned. We'll go meet him and stall for 2.5 lands worth of men to come from the front lines, so we can finish this. Yes. The other cupped their hands, though hesitation dominated still. Talking was one thing, while putting it into action was another. Ling Yuntian didn't look too confident in this joint slaughter, turning to Morong Shui. Miss Morong. Sect leader Ling, I'll do everything in my power, whatever it may be. Then go look for Serjua, and ask him what to do now that the invincible sword is here. Go ask him. Morong Shui's face fell. Morong Lai glared at her and snapped. Shui, there's no time to argue. We need Serjua's cunning tactics. We'd go ourselves, but we need to go join the fight. Stop being a child and do this for the sake of everyone else. Morong Shui huffed and grumbled, but she knew her priorities and flew for the main hall. As for the leaders, they shot in frantic haste at the devastation with a grave expression. Whoosh. Morong Lai, Ouyang Lingtian, and the rest soon met with 16 people walking without a care. In front were the 5 sword kings, looking icy as they dolled out death, uncaring and unfeeling. Be it a building, barrier, or some venerable coming to stop them, they all replied the same way, flicking their hand and sending thunderous explosions that tore everything to pieces. All while their casual trek through the enemy base went undisturbed, like they were a bulldozer. Behind them was a tall elderly, imposing and confident, looking down on the world with none wanting to get near him. He acted like he was on top of the world. The only option was join him or perish. Even the mighty sword kings were giving him ample respect, and did his bidding. It was none other than the best of the best, the invincible sword. Behind him further were 10 juniors, who came out on a sightseeing trip to see the world, keeping their heads low behind the old man, and doing nothing else. Not like they needed to since the path was being cleared with terrifying efficiency. Chapter 1058, One Sword vs. 3. Chapter 1058, One Sword vs. 3. Proofreader Papatonks. Gulp. Morong Lai swallowed hard as he and the rest felt their spine tingle. Everyone, there's only 16 of them, with 10 being kids. But why then do I feel like the whole central area is bearing down on me, like an endless army coming for my life? Isn't the invincible sword a one-man army? We wanted to keep this moment for later, but he came knocking on our door. No matter how feeble we feel, we have to do this regardless. Ling Yuntian glanced at Ouyang Lingtian, straining to speak. Go Lingtian, do as Serjua said and get the heaven-sealing sword back. Why don't you go die instead? Ouyang Lingtian's mouth twitched, his heart sinking, but still shot for the invincible sword. Morong Lai, like a good friend, held the decimating sword as he followed. Brother Ouyang, I'll join you. The others followed in silence. Whoosh! The highest powers of the 4 lands gathered before the invincible sword, blocking his path. The sword kings halted their destructive stroll as well, yet gave these oldies supercilious looks. You have some nerve trying to fight Patriarch, insignificant bugs. Morong Lai knew too well how strong the invincible sword was. What came as a true shock, however, was finding out what invincible sword was holding, their fear mounting because of it. He was not holding the sundering sword. He was so strong without even the help of a divine sword. So how much of a monster would he be then if he wielded one? It's been ages since I saw this old coot, and I see he's gotten stronger still. Is there no end to his growth? Morong Lai and the others felt like crying. They say he has the power of a land, but now I fear he's almost as strong as 2. Would it still be possible to gang up on him with 2.5 lands of soldiers? Will it kill him? The hopes of everyone reached rock bottom. Invincible Sword looked smug as always at the top of the world. I've been in northern lands for many days now and should have at least paid your sect a visit. Alas, that child Jingwei had me wait for a bit longer and prepare you a nice surprise. That's why I waited even though you all lost your heaven-sealing sword, only showing up now. I haven't scared you, have I? Ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian laughed, shaking the skies. The Sword Kings looked smug at their dreaded looks. The leaders clenched their fists and just sweated. Thank you, Invincible Sword. Ling Yuntian bowed with a forced smile. Your name shocks the world. There's no living being who hasn't heard of your might. My sect is filled with boundless honor with your visit. If it were just to say hello, there was no need to fight your way in. We would have gladly welcomed you. Why must you steal our divine sword and barge in, lowering yourself to such petty actions? I'm afraid it will make others mock the mighty Invincible Sword, staining your name, ha ha ha. Invincible Sword's eyes flashed with anger. Bali Yu stepped forward with a glare. Ling Yuntian, you dare insult my patriarch? I'll put you in your place here and now. Bali Yu exploded with power and was ready to strike. Ouyang Lingtian rushed to protect Ling Yuntian. But Ling Yuntian didn't care. Miss must be Frigid Rain Sword King of the 9 Sword Kings, right? Ha ha ha, nice to meet you. Wasn't your act of stealing our sword 10 days ago under the Invincible Sword's orders? While I have nothing to say if Miss denies it, you are still under the Invincible Sword. Anyone could guess that your actions were sanctioned by the Invincible Sword into playing thief. You. Bali Yu flared, but the Invincible Sword cut her off. You get back. Bali Yu gnashed her teeth, her stare boring into Ling Yuntian. Alas, she had to give and fall back. Ling Yuntian turned to the Invincible Sword with a bow. Sir runs quite the tight ship. I take my hat off to you, having them cater to your every whim, ha ha ha. Sect leader Ling. And what's that supposed to mean, that I'm a thief? Bailey Yutian squinted. Ling Yuntian spoke. You're not? Then isn't the heaven-sealing sword on you right now? While it is, a divine sword always finds its way in the hands of the able, while slipping from those unworthy. If you can't keep it, you lose it just like your precious sect, the Invincible Sword chided. Ling Yuntian nodded. True, the weak can't hold a divine sword. Bound to lose it at some point, and it's only their fault. Although this and that are different. We're all practitioners here, and my sect is willing to accept the loss of the divine sword in open combat with Sir. Yet you use tricks to get it from our sect. Ha ha ha. It can either be that your cunning mind is sublime, or that we're just too naive to fall for it. Be that as it may, Sir's name will take a plunge either way. The ignorant might even say you feared us holding the heaven-sealing sword, resorting to trickery than open combat. Is that all the mighty Invincible Sword amounts to? Guess you're only as strong as our sect to resort to stealing. Ha ha ha. The Invincible Sword narrowed his eyes into slits, his face darkening by the second. You're saying I can't take your divine sword in open combat? Humph. The Invincible Sword huffed. Every time I come for a fight you do nothing but cower behind your shell. Or the divine sword would have long been in my hands. What would have been the use of tricks then? Yeah. Though we refused your challenge since we enjoy peace and quiet and not chaos. Nonetheless, stealing our sword is quite a heavy stigma. All right. Invincible Sword cut the air with his hand, and then his palm flashed to reveal an icy blue longsword. Everyone gasped. Invincible Sword then threw it. Ouyang Lingtian moved fast, and reached out to have the divine sword fall in his grip once more. You now have the heaven-sealing sword, but only temporarily. With your broken barrier, you can no longer hide. You can't do anything even with the divine sword, but keep it warm for when I take it. Then any complaints you have will be moot. Ling Yuntian bobbed his head. Of course, the Invincible Sword is indeed direct and frank, the best in the world, ha ha ha. Ling Yuntian laughed, then turned his head. Serge's appeal to ego plan is a success. This kook got the heaven-sealing sword yet gave it back. Now we have 3 divine swords, bolstering our chance of success against this obnoxious monster. The men nodded, the 3 divine swords pointing at the sky. Gold, red and blue flashed from them and shot into the heavens. Boom! The predominating purple lightning was now cut in half, replaced with golden flames, scarlet glows and blue traces from Morong Lai's decimating sword, Shangguan Feixiong's soaring sword and Ouyang Lingtian's heaven-sealing sword. They used their power to wrest control of the heavens from the enemy. The Sword Kings frowned, glaring at them. These rotten bastards actually used mind games to fool Patriarch. How revolting! The invincible sword didn't care, glancing at the half-lost skies with a grin. 3 swords against 1 should be impressive. I'm thrilled that yours truly can enjoy fighting 3 divine swords, ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian flicked his sleeve, and a crackling long sword appeared in his hand, pointing it at the sky. The sky exploded as even more purple lightning boomed everywhere, overtaking the previous losses, swallowed by the flood of lightning. The golden flames, red glows and blue streaks couldn't hold on at all, torn to pieces. The skies were dyed purple once more. Morong Lai, Shangguan Feixiong and Ouyang Lingtian shook and coughed blood. Shangguan Feixiong had it worse. Not being on a Sword King's level gave him the worst wound. The other 2 stared at Invincible Sword with blood dripping from their mouths in dread. Only the Invincible Sword could wrest back dominance from 3 swords. This monster is too damn strong. Chapter 1059 Rescue. Chapter 1059 Rescue. Proofreader, Papatonks. Father, are you certain the sea demon they all talk about is Cao? Yes, the way it's been told. There's no way it's just a simple spiritual beast. It must be a sacred beast. But the North Sea is so big. Where do we even start? In the open waters, 1 man and 1 child flew about, looking all over the place for something other than water and more water. Xiaoer had to express her doubts about this ineffective solution. Zhuofan's eyes shone. Someone once told me that the world has 3 forbidden areas where any mortal will die: Lightning Canyon, Fire Pit and Ice Mountain. They appear on and off across the world, with no fixed location. These areas are prisons for the sacred beasts. Lightning Canyon holds Qilin, Fire Pit holds Dragon Ancestor, so that leaves Ice Mountain being another prison, where a sacred beast is. But because the prisoners wore down at the barriers of the prisons for ages now, the Dragon Ancestor managed to relocate to Ultimate Clarity Sect. So the Cao must have done the same in the North Sea. Just from hearing Ice Mountain, it's easy to tell the entrance has to be extremely cold. With my sharp senses, we're going to find it for sure. Xiao nodded as she flew by his side, while looking for anything out of place. Zhuofan honed in on his senses, probing for anything truly cold, far colder than the icy waters of the sea below him. Rumble! A loud thunderclap exploded behind him. Zhuofan paused and looked back with a gasp. The sky behind them was now a sea of purple, tearing at the sky and bringing doom to those below. It was the Sea Bright Sect, the same place they were at just a while ago. Purple lightning, how come the invincible sword came out so soon? Zhuofan's brow shook. Then he flew back at once. Xiao was startled. Where are you going, father? I need to see if your mother left safely. If she's stuck there. Zhuofan's eyes shone coldly. We'll have no choice but to face the invincible sword ourselves. Zhuofan sped up, his figure gone from here. Father, wait for me. Xiao cried and rushed to catch up. But then she felt a chill all over and looked around bemused. Why is it getting so cold all of a sudden? Rubbing her shoulder to fend off the biting chill, Xiao glanced about, but at the calm waters. There was no wind, and the sun was still up. She just shook her head with a chuckle. I must be feeling things. But this North Sea sure is cold. Xiao rushed after Zhuofan, leaving as well. Mere moments later, the calm sea shifted, thick mist blew in, just like after a heavy rain, and covered everything in a blink of an eye. A cold like no other swept the surface of the sea, freezing it on the spot. The thousands of life forms in its waters were unable to even budge, frozen stiff among the ice. 2 huge light sources suddenly came from deep in the mist, one looking bright, while the other dimmed. What's that noise? Are humans fighting? Far from the thick mist were constant booms echoing about, making the rumbling voice inside cackle. That vile race only knows how to look for more reasons to kill itself off. Their own fellow people slaughter, until everything turns red. One moment they asked me for permission to go out to sea, and the next they're killing each other. Haha, great, perfect. Since neither side can stand the other, let me give you a hand and swallow you both, hi hi hi. A creepy laughter echoed out from the fog as it drifted swiftly, going towards the sea-bright sect. The waters turned ice wherever it passed in an instant. With it came the shuddering and haunting voice of a demon. I open my doors to you, welcoming you to become dessert, hi hi hi. The sea overlord was coming to shore. In the sea-bright sect, the invincible sword was showcasing his unstoppable power against the other sword wielders, taking control of the skies and striking terror in the hearts of men. He looked at everyone with nothing but disdain, while the other Bailey experts held their heads high and mocking the enemy. See that? That's the patriarch's power right there. What are you yokels going to do about it? Ling Yuntian's face fell, his team sighing heavily with worry as they watched in sorrow. The 10 juniors aside, Bailey Yutian was sufficiently monstrous alone that they together couldn't handle him, let alone the other 5 sword kings by his side. Ling Yuntian's heart sank as he looked around. We need Serge's mind now more than ever. What's taking Miss Morong so long to deliver one simple message? Children. Bailey Yutian's eyes shone and shouted. Scatter and have fun, but don't interfere with my enjoyment. Yes. The others cupped their hands and flew off into the sect. Now there was only the invincible sword against the other land's strongest. Morong Lai's eyes twitched. Decimating sword shook in his hand as he spat. Like a true invincible sword. You even had the sword kings leave your side. You want to fight all of us all by yourself? Don't I have what it takes? Bailey Yutian mocked. More than enough. The invincible sword's power is too much for us to disregard. Ling Yuntian chuckled. But aren't you scared something might happen, and you'd have no one to aid you if you send the sword kings away? The invincible sword's face twitched, and he looked harder at him before laughing in his face. Sect leader Ling, you're still up for jokes? Accident? You think of yourself capable of giving me that? Invincible sword, don't get smart with us. All of us here are as strong as your 9 sword kings, and we have 3 divine swords on top. A sudden incident might do you in. Morong Lai roared and pointed at him. The others were equally resentful, flaring their auras at him. The invincible sword couldn't care less, merely tracing sundering sword's edge, as if in his own world. All bark and no bite. Show me what you're made of, and not prattle me to death. As for 9 sword kings, humph, they're nothing but children making a scene. You think you can scare me with that? Ha ha ha, that's rich. People, he was our target to begin with. Now that there's no one helping him, it's the best chance we can get. Charge. With how nothing could ever earn the old man's respect, Ling Yuntian sent to the others. Use his conceit to your advantage, and make him pay with his life before he gets cautious and makes it harder for us. The others nodded and shouted as they stormed Bailey Yutian with their best skills. Decimating sword, decimating inferno. Whoosh. Morong Lai slashed, and the golden sword exploded with flames at Bailey Yutian. The fire formed a sword wave that shot with such heat that it warped the air, and even left black cracks. Soaring sword art, soaring skies. Whoosh! Shangguan Feixiong shouted, and hacked with the soaring sword. The scarlet sword wave shot with incredible speed for its quarry. Heaven sealing sword art, world seal. Ouyang Lingtian was not one to be left behind. He waved his sword, devoid of the savage nature like the rest, but hiding an incredible force behind its subtle nature. The attack reached Bailey Yutian's side, and was about to engulf him. The invincible sword found himself under attack from all sides, ultimate skill coming from the 3 divine swords. Chapter 1060 Oppressed. Chapter 1060 Oppressed. Proofreader Papatonks. The 3 divine sword wielders each used their own swordsmanship. They had immense power, enough to even crush a sword king, yet proved to be sorely lacking when up against the undefeated invincible sword. The exalted double dragons took this time to strike as well. With a dragon roar, a sword dragon fell from the heavens above and shot for the invincible sword. Eastern Land's 3 venerables, Northern Land's 4 Snow Peak Elders and Southern Land's Sword Guardian Venerables made their move too. The incredible and flashy display was not only amazing, but also deadly and apocalyptic. All these powers converged on one old man standing there all by himself. As the string of explosions echoed out, it felt like the world would be torn asunder. Alongside their joint attack, there were many other great experts who sent out such force that not even the 9 sword kings together would survive. A land's army was bound to find itself crippled and blown to pieces too. But as the ruckus died down, thunder flared and retook dominance as it spread in every direction, blowing away the dust. The invincible sword was still standing straight, holding the sundering sword as he touched the ground, majestic and undaunted. There was not a speck of dust on him. His eyes were cold and sharp, his grin disparaging. Everyone gasped in disbelief. No way! All our attacks did nothing? The old monster is just outrageously strong. Ling Yuntian's face twitched, his heart shuddering. 3 divine swords and every top expert of the 4 lands couldn't even scratch him? How are we even supposed to kill him? Can more than 2 lands worth of soldiers do nothing to him? Ling Yuntian turned to the others. Bailey Yutian had gone beyond what was humanly possible. Not even the world's strongest joined together could hurt him. Their hearts sank in despair and remorse. Fighting the invincible sword was the greatest mistake. This freak of nature is too damn tough and strong. Clang! A sharp noise pierced their miserable thoughts. They flinched as they saw the purple lightning-streaked divine sword getting off the ground as he moved. The monster is about to attack. They all froze, with sweat trickling down their brow. The invincible sword wore a sneer, his eyes shining as he raised the purple sword high. You attacked first and didn't feel a thing. What an utter disappointment. Letting you have the 3 divine swords is such a waste. Now then, it's my turn. Once I remove your heads from your necks, the divine swords will belong to me, and no one will question my methods. Their blood ran cold and flinched back with fear. Whoosh! Bailey Yutian used no skill, just slashed like usual. Though anything average turned extraordinary when it came to the likes of Bailey Yutian, carrying with it an unstoppable force of nature. Rumble! The immense power came for the 4 lands experts while the purple lightning above started striking down, following the sword wave, and disintegrating anything in its path. Everyone panicked, with Ouyang Lingtian rushing to use the heaven-sealing sword. Heaven-sealing domain sky sword. Unbreakable world unbreakable sword. The heaven-sealing sword shook and unleashed a dim blue glow that surrounded everyone to keep them safe from the incoming attack. The heaven-sealing sword. Bailey Yutian mocked. The heaven-sealing sword art seals everything. But you, Ouyang Lingtian, are too weak and can't stop the pinnacle of the sundering sword art that I've reached. Boom! The thin blue barrier had no chance against the onslaught, gone upon contact with the thunder sword wave. Ouyang Lingtian coughed blood on the spot and was sent flying. Murong Lai and Shangguan Feixiong rushed to use their own swords, faring no better than Ouyang Lingtian, even if working together. They coughed blood and were flung away all the same. The 3 sword wielders didn't stand a chance, which meant the others were far worse off. The deadly sword wave carried berserk lightning as it boomed swiftly towards them, through them, and into the horizon. It pulverized anything in its path, laying waste to half of the Sea-Bright sect in that attack alone. As for the land's experts, they didn't get to let a wail out, gone from here and sent thousands of miles away, buried under the rubble, either dead or near it. The invincible sword was just too terrifying. Biting winds swept the dust away, though the invincible sword resumed leaning on his sword, standing there among the desolation and destruction. He eased a long breath, frowning as he began to walk. If I knew how it would turn out, I wouldn't have sent the brats flying. With all of them all over the place, it's going to be annoying finding the divine swords. What a pain. Bang! The invincible sword flew up and searched along the ruins. The 5 sword kings and the princes heard the loud commotion and jumped. Crown Prince Bailey Jingtian looked back at the huge dust kicked up by the attack and gasped. Patriarch is amazing. That slash alone must have finished them all off. Brothers, the Patriarch is done with his fight, but he still wants to have 1 person dead. We will help him by bringing back that guy's head. Right. The others roared in agreement and sped deeper into the Sea-Bright sect. The Sword Kings got busy as well, with only Bali Yu frowning. Brother Lei, they're going right for him. We find him first and hide him, then we'll talk. Bailey Yulei's eyes flashed. If the Patriarch or anyone else finds him, he's dead. Bali Yu's eyes shone with resolve as she shot deeper in the Sea Bright sect. On the easternmost side of Sea Bright sect, Wu Qingqiu's group were frantic in their rush with the dulled Chu Qingqiang, sometimes looking back at the devastation with a chill down their spines. Brother Zhua has to be either a god or a bad omen. He had us take Qingqing out of here since it won't be safe. And it's already gotten dangerous. Even the invincible sword came. It won't matter if we die, but we'll fail to fulfill Brother Zhua's request. Senior Brother Wu, the teleportation array is farther away, but they seem to be closing in fast. Shui Ruahua held on to Chu Qingqiang as she heard the shouts coming from behind. Yenemo spoke. Those are from the elders of the Sea Bright sect coming out to stop the enemy, who shouldn't be too outrageous like the Sword Kings and Invincible Sword. Of course it's not them. From that huge explosion and rumbling in the distance, that must be where the Invincible Sword must be fighting. He won't show up here. We will be safe for now. Wu Qingqiu smiled and eased their worries. We'll arrive in 15 minutes, and we'll be safe for good, ha ha ha. The others nodded and smiled, even as they sped up. Protecting Qingqing took priority. A shout then reached them. Wu Qingqiu, where are you guys going? The group stopped, startled. Did they catch up so soon? But the shouts are still far away. How does he know of Senior Brother Wu's name then? Did he lay an ambush? Wu Qingqiu looked puzzled as well. Why does he know my name? It might be an ambush, but for a simple disciple of the Four Lands? Even if it was set up to kill potential dangers, he wasn't exactly at the top either. At the very least, he had two ahead of him in Western Lands, Zhuofan and Yi Lin. Shouldn't he kill them instead? Why does he even know my name? Wu Qingqiu's group was stumped as to what was going on. Chapter 1061, Strongest in the Lands. Chapter 1061, Strongest in the Lands. Proofreader Papatonks. Whoosh! A sudden figure landed before them, speaking in a harsh tone. Where do you think you're going? Looking for the toilet. Wu Qingqiu stiffened as he made an excuse on the spot. Then he noticed who it was and rolled his eyes. Ouyang Chongqing, you almost gave me a heart attack. We thought the enemy caught up to us. Ouyang Chongqing roared. It would have been far better if they did. Aren't you here to help Northern Lands? Now that we're under attack, suffering heavy losses, what do? You're running away. Humph, turns out Western Lands people are nothing but spineless cowards. Who says we're running? Wu Qingqiu pointed at Chu Qingqiang. We were entrusted with the Grand Martial Order to escort Qingqing back to Western Lands. Also, none of us can do anything against the Invincible Sword. Ouyang Chongqing gave Chu Qingqing's dull gaze a long look. I can relate with sending your beloved somewhere safe. Take her, there's a teleportation array up ahead. But could you tell me something first? Where is the Grand Marshal Sir Zhua? As a Grand Marshal, he must be in the main hall, overseeing the alliance. The hell he is. I'm just coming from there, and there's no sign of him. Ouyang Chongqing mocked. That guy is a coward as well, running the moment the Invincible Sword came killing. Sister Shui and I have been searching all over, but have found no trace of him. The others were shocked. No way. We just met him before dawn in the main hall. How can he be gone? Who knows, maybe he used the teleportation array first. Ouyang Chongqing mocked. So this is the wimpy style of the best disciple in Western Lands. Yi Lin is way better by comparison. Now listen here, elder brother isn't like that. Say one more word, and I'll beat you to a pulp. Heh, reality has spoken yet you still cover for him? Besides, since the best disciple in Western Lands is gone, won't you inherit the title? What's not to like? When I earn something, I do it with my own two hands. I will give my all regardless of victory or defeat. I shall be the best in my own way, and even if only second, I will never use such petty tricks to take the crown. Listening to you talk, O young Master Ouyang, your best disciple in Northern Lands title doesn't seem to carry much weight. What's that supposed to mean? I have earned it in the most righteous. Ouyang Chongqing and Yi Lin kept fighting, and devolved into grabbing each other. Wu Qingqiu had to rush in to break them up. But what good would that do against the best seeds of their respective lands? The more the two talked back, the more heated became, on the brink of fighting it out for real. Whoosh! Morong Shui suddenly flashed over, looking stumped. What are you all doing? You're squabbling when there's destruction and war going around you? Sister Shui. Ouyang Chongqing eased up at once, afraid of giving the girl of his dreams the wrong impression. Sister Shui, you must believe me. I am a civilized man who always avoids brawls. They're just too crude and savage to understand reason. Morong Shui's face twitched and rolled her eyes. Like she didn't know this pompous fool for who he was. Civil you? More like a grandmaster in picking fights, who's only lived for so long thanks to his daddy. She promptly ignored him, choosing to talk to Wu Qingqiu. Where's Zhuo Fan? Do you know where he went? They all shrugged, unable to provide any help. Damn that demon, running away at the worst possible moment. Morong Shui gnashed her teeth and frowned. Ouyang Chongqing played it cool. Sister Shui, he's just a rotten coward. I bet he ran off the minute he saw the enemy starting killing their way in. He's unreliable, and I refuse to believe we can't fight without his rotten help. Haven't you always said he's filled with foul schemes and better stay away for everyone's good? Hee. Yi Lin flared, but Wu Qingqiu held him back from starting anything. It does ring true. He ran off after causing a scene, just like with the central area's serene shores trading, letting others take the fall. Morong Shui pondered then nodded. He's better off gone. I refuse to believe that my brother and everyone can't stand up to the Invincible Swords group without his vile methods. Miss Morong, you're just unbearably naive. Your brother and everyone can attack together all they want, but they'll never get to touch a hair on the patriarch's body. A condescending tone reached them, followed by 10 youths standing proud and confident before them. The leader was a man of sharp features and elegance, wearing a most disparaging smile he could muster, complimenting the disdainful gaze. The hearts of everyone shook, and even stung from the immense pressure. Expert. It was the unanimous conclusion they arrived at, no longer looking casual in the face of such danger. Ouyang Chongqing as well grew grave, asking Morong Shui, Sister Shui, you know him? Who is he? Central Area's strongest junior, Sword Star Empire's crown prince, Bailey Jingtian. Morong Shui's eyes shook, finding it hard to speak. He might as well be the best junior in the lands. Behind him are 9 princes, each stronger than the last. Bailey Jingtian chuckled, with the other princes joining in. Wu Qingqiu's face fell, his fists clenched and his heart heavy. We're just about to get Qingqing to safety, so how did such a deadly enemy appear? The usually playful and cynical Ouyang Chongqing suddenly got excited, his fists trembling with eagerness. The best youth in the lands. Ouyang Chongqing's eyes burned hot. Morong Shui, oblivious to his quirk, totally focused on Bailey Jingtian, said, Crown Prince, what a strange coincidence to find you all the way out here. Best in the lands. Ouyang Chongqing roared over her and shot straight for Bailey Jingtian, shouting at the top of his lungs, Once I beat you, I shall be the best of the best, ha ha ha. Ouyang Chongqing, don't be hasty. You're not his. Sister Shui, watch closely. I will prove to you how worthy I am of you. Morong Shui started, not expecting him to be so impulsive. Ouyang Chongqing was deaf to reason, finding his lifelong dream right before his eyes, and had all the intention to grasp it. He charged right for Bailey Jingtian, and unleashed a cold sword wave at the chest. Heaven-sealing sword art blood seal. Bailey Jingtian hardly cared, smiling. The best in Northern Lands, son? You're as bold as your father, I see. Worthy of Senior Ouyang's teachings. A shame you're not the only inheritor of a great expert, and not fit to touch me. Bam! The loud bang rattled the air, fluttering the clothes of the princes. Bailey Jingtian was still standing in the same spot, just like usual. Ouyang Chongqing gasped, staring hard at the finger in front of him facing him that was flashing with purple lightning. Another prince that stood by Crown Prince's side. This is impossible. The best disciple in the central area didn't have to step in. but another prince took my all-out attack like nothing? Ouyang Chongqing was in complete denial of what happened. Only then Morong Shue's words sank in. The central area had 10 princes, with each as strong as the best disciple of any other land. Are you serious? Ouyang Chongqing's eyes shook hard as he gnashed his teeth in indignation. Morong Shue and Wu Qingqiu's hearts sank. The strongest clan in the lands is just too terrifying. Even the young have the power to shake the lands. It seems like Bailey now got the best youth in the land's title as well. But where does Zhuofan fit in all this, I wonder? They were all hoping yet watching gravely as Ouyang Chongqing, whose power they knew, was stopped before even reaching Bailey Jingtian. Whoosh! Just then, another figure appeared wrapped in golden flames smashed for Bailey Jingtian's head. Chapter 1062, Vying. Chapter 1062, Vying. Proofreader Papatonks. Following the draconic cry, golden flames exploded as a fierce power pushed down on Bailey Jingtian. The searing heat was so strong it twisted and singed his hair. The crown prince's brow shook, looking dead serious at the incoming golden flames. There's actually an expert among these bugs. He was just mildly surprised, still standing there without budging. Bam! The golden figure then found itself halted by a strong hand, just an inch from reaching his target. The flames scattered on impact, and revealed Yi Lin in his normal form. The one to block him was a buffed man, looking serious despite having blocked the attack. Not just anyone could stop the might of a half-sacred beast with just their body. It was truly incredible that the buffed man even trained his body to this extent. How does the Bailey clan have someone like him, able to withstand little junior brother's strike with his body alone? Wu Qingqiu gasped. The other Western Lands disciples were just as astounded. Only Morong Shue frowned. He is the second prince Bailey Jinggang, forging his body since he was young in the Thunder Pavilion's lightning. He's so tough and strong that he only comes second to Bailey Jingtian. But no disciple in the world is better than him when it comes to raw power. The others turned to Yi Lin filled with worry for his sake. Yi Lin walked the same path, of a strong body, but now had met his match. They weren't the only one surprised, and Bailey Jinggang found Yi Lin a true freak. He was supremely confident in his lightning-forged body, having never failed him so far. Yet taking on Yi Lin's, he felt like a hammer blow got smashed into him, feeling it in his bones. A piercing pain like no other came screaming from his body. He only kept a straight face by gnashing his teeth, or he'd be tearing up right about now. He certainly did not think the 5 lands would have another freak in body cultivation. Bailey Jinggang looked up at Yi Lin's savage eyes in wariness. Their nature was antagonistic. He was about to fall back, letting his elder brother deal with it. But Morong Shue happened to announce his mighty body for all to hear. Now this is a problem. Leaving like this will make me look bad. Seeing the caution in their eyes, Bailey Jinggang lamented. He had to suffer through those bitter tears, all for the sake of upholding the world's image of his tough body. So he withstood Yi Lin's sweeping leg, feeling the heat on contact and gnashing his teeth. He even managed to force Yi Lin back. The others were more shocked than ever, believing in Morong Shue's information. Bailey Jinggang is really strong enough to push back little junior brother with strength alone. Bite me. The true strong one is that freak coming out of nowhere. Where did he get all that power? My arm's about to snap. Bailey Jinggong's face twitched, crying on the inside. He finally managed to keep a straight face, through the pain and anger, then he flung Yi Lin back. Ouyang Chongqing's adversary struck as well, sending him off. Ouyang Chongqing and Yi Lin looked grave at these 10 men, while the 2 princes walked back unconcerned, and with disdain and hands behind their back. Yi Lin and the rest failed to notice Bailey Jinggong's arm shivering all over, while the other princes' fingers spasmed as ice formed on them. It looked like the princes scored a victory each, but looking closer, they got the short end of the stick. But they had to put a show of calm to preserve their dignity. Bailey Jingtian saw the truth and gasped inside. These bugs actually have some good seeds. Not all of the 4 lands juniors are worthless. Second brother, third brother, stand down. They came for me. Who asked you to interfere? Bailey Jingtian looked after their reputation and had them fall back on purpose. The two bowed, going behind him. These two were true geniuses that only the crown prince could face. Bailey Jingtian looked around and stepped before the two adversaries with a smile. I know of Ouyang Lingtian's son, but the other? Western Land's best disciple Yi Lin. Ouyang Chongqing was the one to reply. Bailey Jingtian eyed him and nodded. Oh, I was wondering how this young master could show such skill. So you're the best of your generation in Western Lands. Wrong, I'm just the second. First is my elder brother. Yi Lin scoffed, finding it totally beneath him and taking something that wasn't his to begin with. Bailey Jingtian jerked. For Western Lands to have such a mighty figure as a runner-up, then the first must be godlike, right? Wrong again, he's only a coward, running off at the first sign of your coming. Shut your mouth. Elder brother's valor is beyond your understanding. He'll never run. Try saying that again. Zhuo Fan is a coward, fleeing with tails between his legs, ugh. Ouyang Chongqing was disdainful and mocked, but then Yi Lin flared in anger. He grabbed the other's neck, while Ouyang Chongqing did the same, not to be any lesser. The two were back to arguing once more. Morong Shui and the others' faces fell. War is in front of us, and these two only know how to squabble. Bailey Jingtian frowned, smiling after a pause. Zhuo Fan, are you talking about that Qian Fan merchant, Steward Qian? Right, he's been using that name to get into the Sea Bright sect. Ouyang Chongqing replied while focusing on fighting with Yi Lin. Bailey Jingtian snickered. Then may I ask, where is this Sir Zhuo? How should I know? Ask them. If there's anything worse than a tough enemy is a dumb ally. Ouyang Chongqing was so caught in wrestling Yi Lin he let his mouth run off, grumbling and pointing at Wu Qingqiu, and making it even worse. They're defending Zhuo's wife and escorting her home. They must know about him. Oh, Zhuo Fan's wife is it? Bailey Jingtian gave the others a look. Their hearts sank and stepped before Chu Qingcheng, which only worked to point her out to Bailey Jingtian. Bailey Jingtian smiled and his eyes flashed. Grab her and we'll get that guy's location, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian flicked, and the princes charged at Wu Qingqiu's group. Everyone flinched, with Yi Lin panicking. He stopped fighting with Ouyang Chongqing and went to help. Ouyang Chongqing finally reacted, finally knowing who the enemy was, and went to help. But then someone jumped up to stop them, Bailey Jingtian. He wore a mocking grin, speaking with disdain. Weren't you coming at me before? Well, here I am, attack me together. Beat it. Don't touch my sister-in-law. Yi Lin roared as golden flames turned into scales and charged like a tornado for Bailey Jingtian. Dragon scale flash. If you want Zhuo Fan, go find someone else, not his woman. I hate nothing more than bastards who go after women and children. Ouyang Chongqing roared, releasing his aura and flicking his fingers, sending icy waves at Bailey Jingtian. Heaven sealing sword art, endless ice seal. Chapter 1063, A Toss-Up. Chapter 1063, A Toss-Up. Proofreader Papatonks. Whoosh. The cold sword wave stilled anything it passed through, as if stopped in time. Whoosh. Golden scales rained down like meteors at Bailey Jingtian, blocking any chance of evading. Yi Lin and Ouyang Chongqing worked together for the first time, bringing out the best in each other. Bailey Jingtian hardly noticed the danger, still wearing that disparaging smile. Did you know that the patriarch's demands are the harshest? Every time we fight, if even one time we fail to take on 100 experts of our level by ourselves, we fail his expectation. In regard to those fights, you two coming at me is hardly enough to make me sweat, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian's eyes flashed, feeling the dangerous attacks coming near, and merely waved. Rumble. With a rumble, lightning snaked from above, thousands of them forming into a sharp sword energy, smashing down on the ground to destroy it. Yi Lin and Ouyang Chongqing's attacks were torn to pieces, the overbearing shockwave coming right for them, and sending them flying, trailing blood behind them. They paled instantly, finding that Bailey Jingtian's had the same smile once dust settled. He hadn't moved an inch. Their attacks had no effect whatsoever, but instead, they were the ones to suffer. This is terrifying. They were mighty youths, so how could they be routed so easily? Was this the power of the best disciple in the lands? The two were overwhelmed at the disparity. Yi Lin was having a difficult time believing that he, a sacred beast inheritor, would lose to another peer again. The remorse in his heart was too much to bear. He ought to know that while he was the dragon ancestor's inheritor, the enemy was the sword sovereign's successor, a mere toss-up between them. As for strength, the master led while the disciple grew on his own abilities. Dragon ancestor was a sacred beast, making it hard to clearly convey his skills to a human. As for a sacred weapon successor, like Ouyang Changqing and Bailey Jingtian, they had understood Sword Sovereign's essence through the sacred weapons. They were practically direct disciples of another human, making the passing of the techniques flawless. Yi Lin's defeat this time meant not the loss of Dragon Ancestor to Sword Sovereign. It only stated that humans and sacred beasts were different. A sacred beast taking a human disciple would not be able to impart all their skills. Moreover, these two's cultivation was also a gulf. Wiping the blood from his mouth, Ouyang Changqing was not about to admit defeat anytime soon. Turning to Yi Lin. Brother Yi Lin, I almost forgot to tell you. That punk is in the Genesis stage. We are without a doubt mighty geniuses, but with only soul harmony stage cultivation will only suffer against him. We can't compare with him in the usage of the world's power. Makes sense, but could you please stop with the narcissistic praises? You should have stopped at calling me a genius. Don't include yourself as well. Yi Lin glared at him. Ouyang Changqing rolled his eyes. Fine, but now what do we do? I do have a plan, but I need Brother Yi Lin to work with me. Say it. Remember our fight, when the world's energy went berserk. I want to do it again. Seeing Yi Lin agreeing, Ouyang Changqing turned serious. I'll open a channel, guiding the world's energy into you, and you must bear with it. Even if you go berserk, all that matters is that you gnaw him to the bone. Yi Lin rolled his eyes. What am I, a dog? Even gnaw? Then again, your idea has some merit. I'll be sure to do my best in controlling that power and unleash it upon him. That settles it. Ouyang Changqing made a sign, evoking heaven art. A great power suddenly gathered high above, turning into countless cold sword energies. Bailey Jingtian laughed. Ha ha ha, you're only borrowing power that's not even yours. It might work against an equal opponent, but nothing that can stop a true Genesis stage expert's world's power. You'll just have to wait and see. Ouyang Changqing shouted, Brother Yi. I got it. Transformation, Fire Dragon King. Yi Lin roared and the golden flame exploded around him, warping and surging 500 meters in height. Ouyang Changqing changed signs, Heaven Sealing Art World Channel. Whoosh. The power far above flew into Yi Lin. Only this time, it no longer froze him but fueled his fire, with the golden flames roaring higher and brighter. The huge dragon's expression was heavy from pain as well, but he bore through it even as the strain increased along with the power. Ouyang Changqing didn't seal Yi Lin's strength, but drew the world's power into him to bolster his. But with this constant flow of power, the odds were it would go berserk once more and take over his mind. The risk in doing it was very high as well. Brother Yi, how does it feel? Can you take it? No problem. The dragon's eye shone with resolve as he gnashed his fangs. Then strike, do it now. Ouyang Changqing pointed at Bailey Jingtian. Yi Lin roared in anger, and threw himself at the enemy with his claws and fangs ready to tear him apart. For the first time, Ouyang Changqing applauded Yi Lin. Good Brother Yi attack. Ha ha ha, Bailey Jingtian, you're finished. Brother Yi has my heaven sealing art in him. No matter what you do, all your power will be drawn into him, and only make him stronger. Not just your yuan qi, but the world's power as well. He's unstoppable now and you will die. Yi Lin roared as he finished, the flames on his body rising higher and brighter. Oh, so that's how it is. Bailey Jingtian smirked, drawing 2 fingers out and releasing sword intent from their tips. Ouyang Changqing mocked. Bailey Jingtian, are you deaf? I already told you, no matter what you. Boom! Bailey Jingtian flicked his hand, and a purple sword energy shot for the fire dragon. A bang echoed out at impact that forced the flames to explode, and Yi Lin to cough blood, as he himself flew out of the fire dragon. He was now looking deathly pale, and blood flew from his pierced chest. The world's channel died naturally with the destruction of the fire dragon. Bailey Jingtian was still standing there with his smile. Ouyang Changqing gasped. That's impossible. Ouyang Changqing shook his head in disbelief. Dad clearly told me that once the world's energy goes berserk, only the heaven-sealing sword can seal it, so how? Bailey Jingtian mocked. Your dad only told you that the heaven-sealing sword can do it? It seems he hasn't told you that the heaven-sealing sword art means sealing, while the sundering sword art means destruction. The two sword arts are in conflict, leaving victory in the hands of the wielder and their strength. By using the heaven-sealing sword art, no other power can break it, except a divine sword, or the sundering sword art. In other words, you're suicidal if you think you can come at me with it when your mastery is weaker than my mastery of the sundering sword art. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing stood dumbstruck. The sundering sword is the heaven-sealing sword's bane? No way. Whoosh! In the middle of his daze, a sword wave ran through his chest. Ouyang Changqing spat blood and fell to the ground. He, the greatest disciple in the northern lands, couldn't even take a hit. Bailey Jingtian is terrifying, a young invincible sword. Chapter 1064, Rush. Chapter 1064 Rush. Proofreader Papatonks. Yin Yang Ghost Claw. Yin Mo released his aura, fighting with a prince just off from the main fight. Yin and Yang flames formed into an eerie claw that raked the air. The prince gazed coldly, waving his finger and shooting a sword wave to crush the claw like it was nothing. The sword wave wasn't finished, slashing Yin Mo's chest and making him cough blood as he flew through the air. Yin Mo! Wu Qingqiu cried out in worry, just as Bailey Jinggang arrived before him and smashed his punch into his clarity domain. You have the time to mind others when fighting me. Bam! Second only to Yi Lin, the strongest body in the western lands was Wu Qingqiu. However, Bailey Jingtian's unstoppable punch connected to Wu Qingqiu's chest, snapping his ribs. Wu Qingqiu was flung through the air and landed hard, with blood splattering everywhere. They weren't the only ones, with everyone else suffering the same fate against the 9 princes. All these renowned disciples ended up crushed in less than a second. None could get up, too damaged and too paralyzed to move. The 10 princes of Bailey were unstoppable in power and potential. Plop. Morong Shui bled from the mouth with a frown, her knee hitting dirt. Looking around, she found that the 10 princes were dominating the fights, leaving their opponents on the ground. Even Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing, the opposing land's strongest, were no different, looking on with despair and dismay. We're finished. Morong Shui's heart sank in defeat, and she shook her head. She should have known that the 10 princes were beyond any of them could hope to match. Bailey Jingtian alone was like a second invincible sword, crushing them all the same even without the other 9 princes. Compared to them, her side were weevils. First came defeat, and then came robbing their future and their lives. Morong Shui sighed and closed her eyes. Regardless of that foul man's shrewd planning, it was Bailey Yutian who had taken initiative and now held the advantage. Now we have lost and the 4 lands lost as well. The people are going to suffer once more. Brother, these guys were nothing. How do we handle her though? Bailey Jinggong's cold eye surveyed the area, and as he brought a shivering Chu Qingqing over to Bailey Jingtian. Bailey Jingtian gave her a long look. Miss, there's no need to fear us. We won't hurt you. We only want to find your husband. Where could Serge be at this moment? Chu Qingqing shivered and lowered her head. Bailey Jingtian looked at his brothers with puzzlement. Don't tell me she's been scared out of her mind. He'd seen his fair share of cowards, but never one who turned like this, and was a cultivator as well. They were only a bit rough on them. That was all, not yet having resorted to killing. So what's got her so terrified? Brother, this must be her nature, Bailey Jinggang said. When we struck, the girl had just stood there and shivered. She didn't even fight us when we brought her, like a cripple. Why would Zhua Fan, a deceitful and arrogant bastard who even fooled the patriarch, marry a dull wife like her? Bailey Jingtian was stumped. She's dull. Cough. Yilin spat blood and forced his weak body to sit. Don't touch my sister-in-law. She lost her mind and knows nothing. Just take me if you want. What good will that do? Who are you to Zhuofan anyway, that you could draw him out? Bailey Jingtian mocked and turned to the shivering Chu Qingsheng. She may be a dumb wife, but Zhuofan did have them escort her. That proves he'll come for her. She'll make a good bait. Brothers, take her back. Yes, sir. Bailey Jinggang bowed with the others and grabbed her hands to leave, but then paused. Brother, what about them? They may be insignificant bugs now, but who's to say what the future holds? Especially those two, having the potential of a sword king. Get rid of them. Bailey Jingyi's face was cold as jumped in the air. He drew 2 fingers and unleashed booms as his power shot from them. The people on the ground closed their eyes. The pride of Western lands was going to fall here of all places, away from home. Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth, roaring. I can't accept it. I've yet to marry Sister Shui. I've yet to be the best in the lands. I can't die, I won't. You? Become the best. Humph. Bailey Jingtian scoffed. At best you're nothing but your old man's successor, the best in the northern lands. The best in the lands shall forever be with our clan, so just wake up already. Oh sorry, it looks like you won't even be dreaming soon. Take this little pity you got from me, and use what precious seconds you have left to dream then, ha ha ha. Ouyang Chongqing's lips shook. Chongqing, I'm here to save you. I knew sensing the evoking heaven art here that it was you who did it. Ha ha ha. I'm so glad there's still time. A sudden voice shouted. Elder Lu. Ouyang Chongqing looked at the old man leading 24 others, and showing their mighty Genesis expert aura. Ouyang Chongqing was overjoyed. We're saved. 20 elders are here and in Genesis stage. They, boom. Thunder rattled the air with every explosion of lighting, and the elders were broken apart under the thunder sword waves. They couldn't even scream as they turned to ashes. Bailey Jingtian put down his fingers and mocked. Young Master Ouyang, did you not hear me? I've trained against crowds from a young age, against 100. Aren't you a bit naive thinking 20 Genesis stage bags of bones could save you? Ouyang Chongqing felt like crying, roaring. You freak, have you no respect for your elders? Killing kind old men without provocation. Is this how you've been raised? What has the Bailey clan even taught you? The patriarch said to cut the tongues of the chatty ones. Bailey Jingtian darkened as he glared at him. Ouyang Chongqing closed his mouth, shivering in silence. Morong Shui shook her head with a bitter smile. The pompous fool is wild even in death. Bailey Jingtian drew his fingers again and built power in them, as he put on an evil smirk. There's no need to harbor false hope as the Sea Bright sect has hardly any people left alive. No one will be coming to save you. So just accept my judgment and go to hell, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian flicked, and the sword energy came crashing down. It held so much power the stones were eaten away, robbing the breaths of the wounded on the ground. They were all doomed. They knew it, but none could do anything to stop it. Elder brother, farewell. Forgive me for not protecting my sister-in-law. Yilin closed his eyes in remorse. Zhuofan, I am ashamed to be your brother. Wu Qingqiu and Yan Mo lowered their heads. There are too many monsters in the world. I am unable to be the best in the lands. Ouyang Chongqing felt his heart twist in defiance. Central areas can't be repelled. The people are going to suffer. Morong Shui sighed. In the moment of their deaths, all that went through their minds were their regrets. But then, Divine Eye of the Void's 5th stage Thunderflame Wall. Chapter 1065. Who are you? Chapter 1065. Who are you? Proofreader, Papatonks. Elder brother. Yilin cried out and opened his eyes. The others were also excited as they looked on with hope. Zhuofan. Power shot in front of the sword wave, and black thunder flames sprung to life in the form of walls. Bailey Jingtian got startled by the sudden development. But the deadly sundering sword art attack smashed into the flaming walls next. There was no sound. The sword energy was swallowed up as it made contact with the flaming wall, losing most of its power. Bailey Jingtian gasped in disbelief. What is going on? How did my sword energy suddenly get so much weaker? The first wall was soon exhausted, and the sword energy now met with the second. This was where it got stalled for longer, not passing through as fast, getting its power cut off even more. Once the second wall was gone, the sword energy lost most of its power. As it arrived at the third and final wall, it faded away along with it in an explosion. Fierce winds blew around, showing a man with long black hair. The Bailey princes gasped then grew excited. The patriarch wants his head. We just have to take it and make a name for ourselves. The princes were eager to get rewarded, including the crown prince. Elder brother, Yilin cried out looking grave. Forgive me. I failed you and didn't protect sister-in-law. Zhuofan's eyes shook and glanced at him, before turning to Chu Qingcheng, who Bailey Jinggang was still holding. His eyes grew icy as he stepped forward, ignoring everyone else. Morong Shui shouted, Devil, what are you doing here? You're only dying with us. You can't fight them. Their leader is the best disciple in the lands, Bailey Jingtian. He's the next invincible sword. Zhuofan never paid her any mind, still walking forward. Fine, since you want to die, go ahead. The sooner a devil like you dies, the better off the world will be. Morong Shui huffed after being ignored. Ouyang Chongqing said, Sister Shui, Bailey Jingtian is beyond strong like invincible sword, but Zhuofan did stop the berserk Yilin, and he's the best disciple in Western lands. He should have a chance, right? None whatsoever. Morong Shui shook her head and huffed. Senior Ouyang explained clearly that he stopped it because his power clashed with the world's power. I had also once fought him, and he isn't anything strong. He needs to restrain the sundering sword art, or he's only going to die against an expert like Bailey Jingtian. Really? Ouyang Chongqing's hope hit rock bottom, speaking with misery. And here I thought there's hope for us now that he showed up, but he's only showing off to die. What did I ever do to deserve this? Is there no real savior coming to rescue us? Ouyang Chongqing sighed, and lamented his untimely demise. But then a weak laugh came. Ha ha ha, young Master Ouyang, no need to fret. Our savior is right here. Who are you beseeching? Ouyang Chongqing turned to Wu Qingqiu and Yan Mo, seeing their conviction and confidence. You guys believe he can save us? But Sister Shui, Miss Morong. Wu Qingqiu ignored him and said to the girl, You said you fought him once, but do you know his real strength? Acting sloppy and being serious are two things entirely. Serious. Morong Shui paused to think. It's I who was serious though. You believe all my strength wasn't enough for him to get serious? Wu Qingqiu shook his head. In the Double Dragon Manor's gathering, demon scheming sex disciples talked about how Brother Zhua had always been laid back. He'll never lift a finger to do anything dull. Let me put it another way. Did Brother Zhua use his eye when he fought you? His eye. Precisely. Yilin butted in with immense confidence in Zhuofan. Elder brother's half. 70% of power is in his eyes. Since he hasn't used them on you, he was only playing. He's only serious when he uses them. When I fought with elder brother, his eyes never stopped flashing. In other words, he was only using a third against you, and you still looked down on him. Morong Shui gasped as she frowned at Zhuofan. Are his eyes that amazing? He's such a great genius, yet a third of his power is only in his body. Ouyang Chongqing turned to Zhuofan in haste, wishing to see the battle for the best disciple in the lands about to unfold. Hovering above and gazing down on the approaching Zhuofan, Bailey Jingtian smirked. Qianfan, Zhuofan, ha ha ha. How should I call you, I wonder? Whatever. Then Sir Zhua. Bailey Jingtian smirked. I remember the first time I saw Sir Zhua, and it left a deep impression. Even the patriarch got fooled by you. Sir's skills are sublime, with none seeing through your bluff. Frigid Rain Sword King then came back, and we knew the truth, that you're just at the soul harmony stage in strength, yet you act like a sword king. We truly admire your calm and level-headed attitude as you put on your act. Sir, however, has conned the wrong people. Patriarch is outraged and wants your head, you see. That's why we're here. So, if it's not too much trouble, would you grace us with your head on a platter? Zhuofan shook and stopped, looking up at Bailey Jingtian. Who are you? Did we meet? I am Sword Star Empire's Crown Prince Bailey Jingtian. I had a one-sided encounter with Sir along with Patriarch. Sir shouldn't be so quick to forget. Bailey Jingtian smirked with pride. Going down memory lane, Zhuofan closed his eyes. Sorry, I don't bother with bystanders. Sir, what's that supposed to mean? I even introduced myself. Bailey Jingtian's face fell. Zhuofan shook his head. Should I remember you just because you stated your name? Thinking back, I often met with outstanding men, leaders of the 5 lands. You just said you were with Bailey Yutian. Ha ha ha. Sorry, but the only one I recall is your patriarch who was before me. I didn't even commit the 5 sword kings to memory, let alone a pipsqueak like you. What can I do? I have too much important stuff taking my time, that all the useless junk gets filtered out. Useless junk. Bailey Jingtian's face twitched. Sir Zhua, you're being too condescending. Zhuofan shook his hand mocking. I have my standards in anything I do. There's 2 kinds of people, the way I see it, enemies and friends. Which I wonder are you? Enemy. Zhuofan shook his head. You can't mean friend, for Sir Zhua will be most wrong. Oh no, you needn't worry about which. Zhuofan looked at him with a taunting smile. Since you never registered to me. I told you, I don't waste my time with bystanders. So, who are you? Wu Qingqiu's group stifled their laughter. Bailey Jingtian shook in rage and hatred, staring daggers at Zhuofan. This punk has to die. Chapter 1066, A Punch's Dominance. Chapter 1066, A Punch's Dominance. Proofreader Papatonks. A pretentious fool who only knows how to act and deceive is now unmasked, yet still insists on sticking to his role to the end? Haha, Sir Zhua, this is utterly vapid. Bailey Jingtian's bloodthirst shone in his eyes, smirking and signaling Bailey Jinggang. I, however, am in no mood to indulge you. Your head is mine. Brother, the dumb wife has outlived her purpose, handle it. Bailey Jinggang gave a sharp nod and laughed. Lightning crackled all over him, as he smashed a big fist at Chu Qingcheng. With an evil grin, Bailey Jingtian's sword wave finally grew outrageously strong enough, glancing back at Zhuofan. Weren't you so full of yourself in your acting? Your wife is about to have that punch splatter her all over. And what can you do? Nothing. What's there to still be smug, ugh? Just as he was about to release his sword wave, he froze, looking in disbelief at where Zhuofan was standing, to find it empty. Where'd he go? Whoosh. Bailey Jinggong's face twisted as his mighty fist reached Chu Qingcheng, the blowing wind fluttering the frail girl's white hair. Then something red flashed out of nowhere, standing before Chu Qingcheng and meeting Bailey Jinggong's strike. What was that? Bailey Jinggong's eyes shook from shock. The flash came all of a sudden and couldn't make it out, yet cared little about it. The dumb wife must have had some protective spiritual weapon. But he believed that there was nothing that his lightning-forged body couldn't overcome. After all, he was able to punch through even 7th-grade spiritual weapons. He shouted, ramping up the lightning on his fist as he pushed on. Bam! The punch slammed into the red glow, unleashing a mighty shockwave, only to realize this was anything but a defensive spiritual weapon, but a scarlet fist. Bailey Jinggang was even more confident. No matter who was coming at him, the number of people able to take on his beyond tough body could be counted on one hand. Yi Lin was a freak enough, but he was now on the ground in wounds. He didn't believe that there could be another outrageous body cultivator here. It was only logical to think that monsters were a rarity, or how else would others get by with them being so common? Shaking his head and sporting a belligerent grin, Bailey Jinggang grew excited as he got into smashing the ignorant interloper. Ha ha ha, fool! You're coming at me with your body? You've got a death wish. I will flatten you. I'm sorry to say, that's going to be you. And while monsters were indeed a rarity upon this god's green earth, he had hit quite the iron plate this time. Coming from the red glow was a cold reply to his infinite confidence. Bailey Jinggang blinked, as there was a sickening crunch echoing from before him. What followed was a blinding pain that overloaded his heart. He jerked, then sweated all over hard. How is this possible? Bailey Jinggang was overwhelmed with a maelstrom of emotions. How can a fist be that strong? Is it still made of flesh and blood? His eyes shook hard. Bailey Jinggang looking dumbfounded as the scarlet fist's glow eased to reveal Zhuofan's deadly gaze. Get away from my wife, reject. The scarlet fist shook and unleashed a powerful ripple that exploded Bailey Jinggang's lightning-covered arm, causing bone, blood and flesh to fly all over. Bailey Jinggang's gaze was empty, only now sensing there was nothing where his tough arm should be. Then the dread came, further amplified by Zhuofan's ruthless gaze. Never had he thought that there would be someone out there that could break his body forged through such hardships. Is he still human? Bailey Jinggang's heart seized. Retreating now was impossible, not when he was supremely confident in his own body, that he gave his all in that attack. As his eyes were taken in with fear and shock, inertia carried the now one-armed Bailey Jinggang closer to the red glow and his doom, all by his own making. Boom! Bailey Jinggang collided with the fist in a mighty bang, and turned to mush. It made a nauseating splatter as his corpse hit the ground, before he could even let out his last cry of pain. As for the punch, its power shot ahead, ripping everything for 100 miles. A huge cloud of dust was kicked, even as the ground never stopped shaking. Only now did the bystanders react, looking over at the sudden commotion to find a savage wind blowing, where Chu Qingqing and Zhuofan stood. As for Bailey Jinggang, he was now blood on the ground, fertilizing the grass. The two had a mighty clash of the toughest bodies yet, and the result came faster than expected, with Bailey Jinggang's body failing immediately. It happened so fast that none here could react nor see how the gruesome ending of the buffed Bailey Jinggang came to be. Brother! The princes cried out in shock, giving Zhuofan looks of fear and bewilderment. How on earth did he just get to brother in an instant? And just what kind of power utterly destroyed brother, who is only second to the crown prince? But more importantly, how did he kill him without even giving us the time to witness it? That can only mean his power. All princes turned to the still stunned crown prince, who grew dark. He's not a pretender through and through after all. But how did he pass 8 princes? Is his speed that great, dwarfing even mine? Bailey Jingtian balled his fists, his heart tense with caution. Morong Shue's group on the ground were just as stunned. She could hardly believe what she saw. Is this what Yi Lin meant? Is this the devil's true power? It's unlike anything I fought against back then. Quick, sharp, ruthless, killing the second prince on the spot. She was brought back to when she faced Zhuofan in Galefrost Town, when Zhuofan took her hit on purpose to return the favor. Morong Shue gnashed her teeth in defiance. Since when do I need the devil to turn his cheek for me to purge evil from this world? This is utterly absurd. Hey brother Yi Lin, is Western lands godlike? Ouyang Chongqing was having a difficult time coming to terms with reality as well, slapping Yi Lin's shoulder as he demanded answers. How the hell did you even train the best disciple in Western lands? You clashed with Bailey Jinggang yourself, and he hadn't budged at all. Why then is he now dead in a second? Hey, say something. Weren't you bragging? Did you really fought this freak for the Western land's best disciple title and barely lost? Yi Lin's eyes twitched hard, his ears ringing with the pompous fool's demands. But as he looked at Zhuofan he sighed hard, shaking his head. Qilin has the greatest strength among sacred beasts. Elder brother has now learned to use the Qilin arm as his own. Now even I won't be able to take that arm. Just how could I have fallen so far behind in just a few years? Yi Lin shook his head ruefully. Ouyang Chongqing felt the same, though his mind ran wild with swears. Brother Yi, you're as bright as the sun yet you could never match his splendor. Woe is you. There is no marring the shine of the moon. Thank God there's no monsters like that in northern lands, or my heart would break from jealousy. Though with the danger we're in, the stronger this brother Zhua is, the better. At least we'll get to survive this, hee. Ouyang Chongqing's eyes flashed with hope, looking at Zhuofan in expectation. Brother Zhua, my poor humble life and future happiness rest in your hands. Save me and sister Shui, and I shall never forget this boundless favor you have graced me with. Chapter 1067 Devour. Chapter 1067 Devour. Proofreader Papatonks. Ching, I'm here now. Ignoring all the confusion, hope and fear coming his way, Zhuofan only felt pain for the delicate woman next to him as she shivered. He held her shoulder lightly, drawing her into a hug and consoling her softly. Chu Qingqing leaned on him and slowly calmed down, to the other's amazement at peace. Zhuofan was her rock. Even as her mind was dulled, her heart knew no fear, no worry, by Zhuofan's side. Bailey Jingtian's face twitched, enraged at Zhuofan's crass lack of respect. To him, Zhuofan's attitude was insufferable, a blatant insult to his station. With the crown prince's extensive education, he could endure some pompous fool's cocky attitude and disregard it. That much he could do. But Zhuofan gave him no regard at all, writing them off as being dead already. It was absurd and outrageous. Zhuofan's casual taunt of not remembering his name was insufferable enough. But now he was enraged by that guy's complete disinterest. Sure, a taunt ruffled feathers, but at least the guy was looking at you. While now, why would he even taunt when he didn't even spare you a glance? But through Zhuofan's caring and thoughtful attitude, Bailey Jingtian came to realize he was only looking at his lover. He didn't just taunt me, but never took me for anything of worth either. He was the best crown prince in the lands, Bailey Jingtian. How dare you not even face me? The crown prince was not just a prince, but the pride of the Sword Star Empire, and also had the same fault, unable to stand rejection. He also knew better than letting anger cloud his judgment, especially with Zhuofan's vanishing act and instant disposal of Bailey Jinggang at the same time. He first needed to understand the intricacies of it all before he took any rash actions. Zhuofan's power made him feel threatened, so caution was a must. Killing the strongest prince under him in a jiffy ought to warrant at least that much. No. Frigid Rainsword King reported to Patriarch that the punk has soul harmony stage level strength. What a deadly lie. Then again, it was deadly for his second brother, though not without merit, having found meaning in his death by exposing the enemy's eerie skill. If it were me having to face that, the loss would be tragic. Bailey Jingtian whined in his head, giving the other princes a look. They nodded, turned to Zhuofan and charged him all at the same time from all directions. Their hands flashed with thundersword waves, aiming for Zhuofan and the girl. Zhuofan could not dodge them, not in this situation. But blocking wouldn't prove to be any easier, as there were just too many of them, and some would be able to strike true as he defended against another. The best case in this scenario was escape, fleeing, but not just running away, blinking out of sight like he did before. And with Bailey Jingtian watching him like a hawk, the instant he figured out the ends of the skill, Zhuofan would be done for. Either way, it was Bailey Jingtian's win for sure. Smirking at his cunning plan, Bailey Jingtian lifted his finger, flashing with a sword wave, wanting to capitalize on Zhuofan's weakness as he made his move to end him then and there. Zhuofan, though, had better things to do than mind Bailey Jingtian's petty tricks, and the onslaught of prints coming his way, like being thoughtful to Chu Qingqing. Still the same blatant disregard. Ouyang Chongqing, however, was only sweating harder the closer the enemy got. Zhuofan was his lifeline, his savior. Elder brother, brother Zhuo, Master Zhuo, the Bailey fiends are coming for you, dodge. Zhuofan held Chu Qingqing's delicate waist, humming a song as if to a child. Whoosh! The 8 experts were within 5 meters of him in seconds. Master Zhou, don't do anything reckless. This isn't the time for romance. You should leave dates for after you're safe. Please. Ouyang Chongqing cried out and panicked. Zhuofan still held Chu Qingqing close, showing a fond smile as he hummed into her ears. The others weren't that worried though, sighing. Brother Zhuo, a man with a block of ice for heart, is now thawed whenever around junior sister Qingqing. I just can't believe he'd go as far as to hum for junior sister Qingqing, just to settle her startled heart. Screw believing. This is no time for flirting. Ouyang Chongqing cursed, his face falling as tears welled up. I know why you complain about his sloppy attitude. In times like these, he just looks after his wife. Shouldn't he at least do that after he settles the problem? Doesn't he realize that if he dies, there'd be no hope for us all? Especially myself. I want to romance my wife too. I just need a chance. Could he please not rob this from me? Ouyang Chongqing whined to Morong Shui. Morong Shui blushed and looked away. I'd much rather die here and now. Ouyang Chongqing sighed. Sister Shui, you wouldn't agree with me even in death? Just why? Whoosh. The princes were just a short meter from Zhuofan, yet he still didn't care, holding on to Chu Qingcheng. Bailey Jingtian found it odd. Why isn't he moving? Does he really want them to attack him? Doesn't he care for his dumb wife? Anyone would be handicapped when protecting something. Does he really believe that he can take on the 8 of them, even with such a handicap? Not even I can do it, so how can he? Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook in disbelief, but he still watched on, not wanting to miss anything. As for the wounded, they were also watching in worry. Zhuofan's death meant theirs. Zhuofan's survival meant they'd see another day. Whoosh! One figure flashed in front, as he extended his finger, to shoot a sword wave for Zhuofan. It's the 3rd prince. Morong Shui shouted. He's below crown prince and 2nd prince but still very strong. He's the one that blocked me before. Ouyang Chongqing joined. Brother Zhuo can't fight back now, not with. Whoosh! 7 more sword waves launched for Zhuofan. An attack that would definitely cripple Zhuofan once they landed. Everyone tensed, clenching their sweaty palms. It was now or never. Any later and Zhuofan would become bloody pieces on the ground. Sensing the danger at long last, Zhuofan paused and his features hardened. Too little too late. 3rd prince smirked, needing only an inch for his attack to reach Zhuofan's waist and run him through. 3rd prince grinned in supreme confidence at the imminent victory. His head is mine. Patriarch will reward me handsomely, ha ha ha. Whoosh. A cold wind blew just then, baffling the 3rd prince to no end. Where did that bloodthirst come from? He found Zhuofan's icy eyes staring at him like a dead man, a gaze that made him shiver. The 3rd prince was so close to victory, yet felt like prey instead. Zhuofan's piercing stare felt so oppressive, like death's scythe on his soft neck. Zhuofan only stared at him, ignoring the other 7 attackers. Scum! How dare you come close to Qingcheng? Die! The boom that followed made the air warp in 1,000 meters around Zhuofan, as a black thunderflame inferno exploded in all directions, enveloping the 8 and swallowing them whole. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Thunderflame Space Crusher. His right eye flashed with 4 golden halos, while the left held a berserk black thunderflame. Zhuofan was in the center of the roaring flames, yet held Chu Qingcheng with utmost care as he hummed. He might be soft around Chu Qingcheng, but cruel to any other, a true devil. Any that approached would be devoured. Chapter 1068. The True Strongest. Chapter 1068. The True Strongest. Proofreader Papatonks. What? That's... Bailey Jingtian squinted, his body jerked, looking with total disbelief at how his brothers were taken by the darkness. SSS. The sizzling sounds of the flames gave the impression the fire was growing, yet it showed no movement. In but a blink of an eye, all life had been swallowed by these black flames. Bailey Jingtian hovered above, his brow seeping with sweat. The attack he got ready at the tip of his finger shook along with it in hesitation. It was failure on his part for not taking into account that Zhuofan had maybe another strange skill under his sleeve, one that proved even deadlier, taking 8 strong princes down. How can this be? Just what is that black fire? How the hell can it prevent 8 soul harmony experts from even letting a sound out as it took them? Bailey Jingtian looked at the black swirling dome of flames with a heavy brow, his calm now replaced with fear. His mind might reject such a foreign feeling, but his heart wouldn't stop hammering in his chest. Wu Qingqiu's group were stunned. They knew Zhuofan was the best, that he had a counter for the 8 princes, but not even they imagined it would be so clean and deadly. Their eyes were almost falling out of their sockets. These were the same 8 Bailey princes that wiped the floor with them moments ago. So how then when Zhuofan entered the picture, they became lambs, giving him an easy time dispatching them from this world? No, they're no lambs, but Zhuofan being too strong, stronger than we can imagine. This is the true strongest disciple in the lands, the next invincible sword. Wu Qingqiu and Yan Mo sighed. Just a few years, and we can no longer compare. Yeah, elder brother's eyes got stronger. Yi Lin sighed as well, shaking his head. Only a lick of black fire almost got me killed last time. But now he could let out so much more. Even I would be finished in an instant. Elder brother's strength is beyond anyone's. There's none among his peers in the entire world that can match up to him. Yi Lin glanced at Bailey Jingtian above with a hint of disdain. Bailey Jingtian felt the taunt on his skin and met his eyes. But then again, Zhuo Fan was tougher than anything he'd seen. Bailey Jingtian stared at the black fire hard, putting more power in his sword wave. Ouyang Chongqing and Morong Shui, on the other hand, were gaping at the hissing thunder flame. They knew Zhuo Fan was above them, and their only slim chance at survival. But it turned out the hope was bigger than ever. It became a guarantee, so much so their fears were gone, fear brought on by Bailey Jingtian. They could tell as well that he no longer was as cocky in the face of those twisting flames. The devil is terrifying. I wanted to remove him myself, but now I see how naive I've been. Morong Shui's feelings were all over the place. The devil is not something I can ever hope to take down. But it has to be done, before he becomes the next invincible sword, and brings hell on earth. Morong Shui hoped and worried, filled with constant dissonance. Ooh. At the next light breeze, the thunder flames vanished like they were never there, leaving behind nothing at all. There was no sign of life. Not from the previous 8 princes, and neither from the earth. The only one standing was Zhuo Fan in center, holding Chu Qingqing with care, unaffected by the attack. Zhuo Fan hummed with a soft smile, to which Chu Qingqing relaxed and calmed down. Zhuo Fan smiled brighter, his humming slowly stopping. Chu Qingqing smiled in his arms, drifting into a peaceful sleep. The onlookers blinked, more shocked than ever of Zhuo Fan's strength. They just witnessed how he punched the second strongest prince to oblivion, and now how he erased the other 8 from existence. All of it was done not on account of it being the best way to deal with them, but only to soothe Chu Qingqing's heart. This was called killing with a smile. The guy spared them no attention to the attackers, not even a thought, and yet he killed them all. Now that was strength. 8 went at him from all sides, yet his wife took priority still. What did that make of them? Bugs, annoying and pesky bugs. He not once considered them any danger to even touch him. Everyone's gazes shifted after this event, changing the way they looked at Zhuo Fan, with respect and bafflement. Zhuo Fan was like an immortal standing leagues above them, not something mere mortals could ever hope to even catch a glimpse of. This was a level beyond anything they could fathom. They looked at him with shock and daze, even hoping that maybe they could attain his impossible position. Morong Shui was the same, having the odd feeling that Zhuo Fan was not the devastating demon she thought him to be, her perception of him now soaring higher in her mind. All eyes were looking lost, forgetting the time and place, even as Zhuo Fan only stared at one person only. Qingqing, I'll take you to safety. Tracing her gentle sleeping face, Zhuo Fan smiled with love and care. Whoosh! There was a sharp whistle, just then, and thunder boomed, as a purple sword wave of incredible power shot for the lovely couple. The pressure from it was so huge, the breath of the others caught in their throat, unable to move from the weight, watching with shocked eyes as the stones around them were being turned to dust and floating about. It's so strong it breaks the world's laws, so if it lands, there'll be nothing left of him. Everyone gasped, jerked awake by the sudden change. Ouyang Chongqing cursed. Bailey Jingtian, you damn bastard! Have you no dignity to sneak attack? Yet you still call yourself the best disciple in the lands? Humph, standing by now will really mean that I lost that title. Bailey Jingtian cared not for his empty words, shouting as his gaze turned mad. Zhuo Fan, let's see you dodge Sundering Sword Apex. From all that transpired, he understood that he held no chance in fighting Zhuo Fan alone. So while this might be dishonorable, he still chose to go for a sneak attack. The timing also coincided with Zhuo Fan's worst moment, unable to move as he wished. By attacking from afar as well, he avoided the same miserable fate as his brothers. Zhuo Fan had to take it, the outcome based on their strength. But with him being in the Genesis stage while the enemy in the Soul Harmony stage, winning was guaranteed. No. Ha ha ha, with me on the high ground and him below, it's perfect. Bailey Jingtian's heart brimmed with confidence. A shame he didn't understand Zhuo Fan's at all. Divine Eye of the Void had 7 stages, and coupled with the apocalyptic Thunderflame Eye, he had many variations of which he only showed 2. Who? The mighty sword energy shot for Zhuo Fan, unleashing sharp winds as it passed. Yet he still didn't budge, only his face grew colder, murmuring, "A bystander dares to interfere when my wife is sleeping." "What did you say?" Bailey Jingtian asked in shock. Zhuo Fan closed his eyes, a cruel smile forming. Then he flashed them open, shining brighter than ever. His right eye glowed in 2 golden halos, and his left contained the wild black thunderflame. "I said," Zhuo Fan shouted, "die!" Divine Eye of the Void 2nd stage, Thunderflame Void Annihilation. Whoosh! A beam of black crackling flames shot at the skies, straight for Bailey Jingtian. Chapter 1069, Waiting for Death. Chapter 1069, Waiting for Death. Proofreader Papatonks. Bam! An earth-shaking explosion sounded when the 2 powers collided, though it hardly showed anything spectacular. That was because in that instant, the shockwave got burned to nothing by the black flames. Next was the sword wave's turn, starting at the edge, burned away. In no time at all, the flames ate 1/3 of the attack, and were still going strong until there was hardly anything left of the sword wave. How is this possible? Bailey Jingtian gasped, sweat trickling down his brow. Zhuo Fan has many more aces, with the black thunderflame even countering his sword energy, one that had an even greater power. He could not see that the thunderflame was backed by the Divine Eye of the Void 2nd stage, a move that broke any barriers. The strongest attack of this move set, only made deadlier with the fire. The Sundering Sword art could be as strong as it wanted, but since he was not a sword king, he could do nothing in the face of these devouring flames. Bailey Jingtian rushed to make signs to strengthen the sword wave, even as it was failing in the confrontation. The thunder flame was invincible, smashing through the rest of the attack and reaching his chest. The imminent danger made the proximity of an early death much more pronounced. Bailey Jingtian wanted to fall back, but it was too late. In panic, his hand flashed and a silvery sword appeared. Bang! With a loud boom, the clash resulted in actually stopping the black beam of flame, saving him. Bailey Jingtian grinned and looked smug. Hehehe. I found your black fire's weakness. It might be amazing, but it's nowhere near able to destroy everything in the world. This permafrost sword of mine isn't up to the level of the 5 divine swords, but it is a 12th grade spiritual weapon, housing a spirit from a 10 miles deep icy pond, turning it into a weapon just below a divine sword. No matter how creepy your black flame is, it won't reach me. Without this ace of yours, you can do nothing either, ha ha ha. Everyone jerked and turned to Zhuo Fan. His brow shook, squinting. A spiritual weapon with a spirit is a sacred weapon, but unless it's of the 6th grade, it still won't stop the apocalyptic thunderflame. Zhuo Fan smirked. Bailey Jingtian's face twitched. He still has a way out of this mess. He only shouted back there to taunt Zhuo Fan, to get the guy to take out more of his cards. But the reaction only baffled him. Is it dismay or an insidious plot? Zhuo Fan soon answered him. Not through dismay or some scheme, since none were needed. He showed that the rare 12th grade spiritual weapon would prove a dashed hope in saving him. Sharp cracking sound echoed that caught Bailey Jingtian's undivided attention. He watched frozen, as his glittering poker sported black cracks. Black flames erupted from them, and crawled all over it like maggots. SSS. Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook and gasped from horror. The lifeline he depended on was shaken hard. The sword. Boom! The precious 12th grade spiritual weapon was blown into useless bits, while the thunder flame was like a bloodthirsty animal, eating everything. The flame turned into a snake, shooting for Bailey Jingtian with the promise of a cruel death. Bailey Jingtian's legs turned to jelly, his face a mask of disbelief and shock. His 12th grade spiritual weapon barely fended off the thunderflame's savagery. What the hell that thing even is? It's monstrous. Bailey Jingtian wailed on the inside. But with the thunder flame closing in fast, he flung his head to the side to let the fire pass, looking like a whipped dog. It was an action most unbefitting of the crown prince of the Sword Star Empire. But life was always more precious than how others saw him. Seeing the black thunder flame fly away, Bailey Jingtian was sweating buckets as he gasped. The fear was still palpable from his brush with death. But at least he came out on top and alive. Bailey Jingtian only took one of Zhuofan's moves, and already was keenly aware how deadly he was. He almost died back there. Looking down at Zhuofan, Bailey Jingtian turned heavy. He found none of the bragging from before, realizing how close he was to dying. Should he try and slip away? Haha. He believed that the moment he turned his back, another thunder flame would come and he'd die for sure. He was focusing all his energy on the problem, and didn't have the time to be distracted with some empty threats. Zhuofan was like a reaper, never taking him out of his sight. The slightest mistake would be his grave. Since escape was out and fighting didn't help, what then? Stall. Bailey Jingtian was a crown prince through and through, sharp and educated. In this dangerous situation, against such an abomination, waiting was the best choice. He just had to dodge anything Zhuofan threw at him. That should be enough to keep him alive. As for escaping, he could not, lest he presented his open back. He needed to wait for any of the Sword Kings to come and he'd win. Bailey Jingtian cautiously looked at Zhuofan unmoving. Damn that witch Bailey Yu, sending fake information. You call that a soul harmony stage level? Curses! Not even a Genesis stage expert is as dangerous as this freak. That damn broad got all the princes killed. Bailey Yu had indeed stated the truth, since she only saw Zhuofan fight Morong Shui that one time, when he let her. She had no way of knowing his true strength. Zhuofan paused, seeing him just standing there. His eyes flashed with realization and chuckled. Bailey Jingtian was confused. Why isn't he attacking? It only works better for me, so why is he waiting as well? He doesn't care about a Sword King coming over? He's only going to get himself killed wasting time. Bailey Jingtian was mystified, standing there dumbly. The people below noticed the situation, and pointed at him with mocking smiles. Look at the fool, he's frozen stiff. Bailey Jingtian's eye twitched, feeling the disdain on his skin, but move he did not. He just stared the devil in the eye as always. What do bugs know? This is tactic. All methods are fair so long as they bring me victory. That's why stalling is the best choice. Humph, uncultured swine. Though it was obvious this crown prince's ingenious tactic did not go noticed by the common folk, the jeering continued. Even the unmoving Zhua, like himself, was chuckling and shaking his head. The crown prince was utterly confused. He'd get why the bugs were stupid, but why would he act the same? Ah! He suddenly cried out, still confused but now in serious pain. Looking back, he was shocked at what he saw. How can? SSS. The black thunder flame was burning the pristine hand of the Grand Crown Prince, working its way up his shoulder. The audience laughed harder than ever in ridicule. Ouyang Chongqing was the loudest, looking for the perfect moment to cut him down a peg. It turns out the strongest disciple in the lands, the great crown prince of Sword Star Empire, is nothing but a moron. He didn't even notice his sleeve was burning, only when his hand caught on fire. It's definitely part of the sharp instincts of the best, ha ha ha. I heard many say of waiting for death, but only now I get what they meant, ha ha ha. Zhuofan's patronizing was far more savage, attacking the crown prince at his worst moment. Chapter 1070. I just didn't say it. Chapter 1070. I just didn't say it. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ah! The black flame licking Bailey Jingtian's arm, ate more and more of it as it spread, going from his arm to his shoulder to finish the job. Bailey Jingtian shook his arm all over the place, while not forgetting to howl at the skies. The searing pain stabbing his heart, and making him break out in sweat, his face a twisted mask of his sharp features. Yet the worst wasn't the pain. having gone through extensive training to learn to bear with extreme pain. No matter what he tried, flicking his hand or using yuan qi, it would stick to him like a leech, horrifying him. He could not snuff it out. Another image then surfaced in his mind, that of being cooked alive, here and now. Bailey Jingtian's heart raced in terror, panicking and wailing, but nothing worked. Seeing the black flame unaffected by anything he tried, his heart sank in despair, about to have a mental breakdown. Regret was eating his insides for not being just a wee bit more careful, for not even noticing how the black beam of flames grazed his clothes. He would have removed the sleeve, and easily dealt with the danger rather than be in so much pain. His real regret, however, was about Zhuo Fan. The guy showcased power beyond anything he'd seen, like a demon archon, that made him obsessed with reading his every move to counter them, thinking that he could survive that way. When a savage tiger was eyeing you as prey, you would ignore the ants gnawing at your feet. In face of great danger, people ignore anything but the source of said danger. Alas, the wee ant turned out to carry a fatal poison as it bit him. He had fallen for it, and could only wait for the poison to spread and kill him. It was no less deadly than the tiger, though way more painful. A pity he did not immediately notice it. That did not include the audience, who was very clear on what was happening, and enjoying his plight, before he even realized it. Zhuo Fan scratched his nose amidst Bailey Jingtian's incessant wailing, though he couldn't fight a smile. I could tell by the way he dodged that it wasn't a clean one, and the flame stuck to his sleeve, but I just didn't say it. I saw it too. It was but a spark of fire that only grew with time. Yi Lin's face shook. I just didn't feel like sharing, seeing him so focused. The wounded guys on the ground looked at each other, then at Bailey Jingtian, raving around with taunting smiles. Ouyang Chongqing patted Yi Lin's shoulder, complaining theatrically, "Brother Yi, that's not right. We're all righteous cultivators here, and a win only counts when done fairly. How could you keep it from him, that his sleeve had something so deadly stuck to it? That's not how a righteous and honest man acts. If it were me, I would have instantly warned him of his sleeve, so we could compete in a real fight." "You don't say. Why the silence all this time then?" Yi Lin gave him a patronizing smile. Ouyang Chongqing smiled back, looking at the rest with his head high and using a scornful tone. "Didn't I say it already? As a righteous cultivator, I should be honest, but having fought with the crown prince, and not found him to be one of us. Zhuo Fan is a demonic cultivator, so anything goes. So in the spirit of fairness, I had to keep silent when his sleeve was struck, even signaling everyone to keep quiet as well. It wouldn't do for the audience to meddle in the fight of real experts. So we just stood and watched instead. Crown Prince, you may continue the fight. We promise to be nothing more than spectators and never interfere. Ha ha ha. Screw you. You rotten bastards, ack." Bailey Jingtian was struggling in the air still, with the fire reaching his shoulder, and the pain only growing in intensity. Nothing he tried worked in removing it. While he was here burning alive, those fools below were having the time of their lives at his expense, cursing and mocking him. He snapped back, but that only got them to mock him harder, finding him weak. "You hopeless case dare raise your tone at us? Hee hee, go ahead. Not like you have any future left by the looks of it. We'll just wait for you to burn out while you dance around like a monkey and raving, humph." Zhuo Fan smiled, ignoring him, and returning with Chu Qingqing to the others on the ground. The black thunder flame didn't stop till all was ash. Even a sword king had to be careful around it, let alone a mere Genesis stage cultivator. There was no point in minding a dead man walking. Grinning evilly, Zhuo Fan ignored the cawing in his ear, walking with his wife. Whoosh! Just then, a sword wave flashed through the sky and Bailey Jingtian's shoulder. Whoosh! The arm sword engulfed in black flames. Bailey Jingtian felt his right arm gone, with blood gushing out of his shoulder. A tall man appeared next to him, pressing his acupoints and stopping the bleeding. But even that short moment of bleeding out was enough to cover half his clothes in it. Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook, jerking his head at where his right hand used to be. The sword wave had taken it from him. "Crown Prince, I had no choice but to do it. The man spoke casually. Zhuo Fan paused and frowned. He looked back, and then clenched his fists. Beat the brat, and the big guy shows up. The crown prince was dealt with, then a sword king had to show up. The others could pretty much guess who arrived to help Sword Star's crown prince. Their mocking smiles froze and gulped hard before turning a pleading look and hopeful gaze to Zhuo Fan. Bro, you made light work of the crown prince, but can you handle a sword king as well? Zhuo Fan took his time to breathe in and out, holding Chu Qingqing while walking over to them without any hint of anxiety. The man's eyes twinkled, his eyes bright. Bailey Jingtian looked at Zhuo Fan with nothing but hatred and fury. He clenched his only fist, the nails digging into his palm as he roared. Thunder Sword King, kill him! Kill him now! Crown Prince, you're hurt, and we should first treat your wound. Bailey Yulei got an idea of what happened by looking at the man below, and the Crown Prince's fury. He, however, looked for an excuse not to follow the Crown Prince's order. Bailey Jingtian was unaware of the Thunder Sword King's weird attitude of not being interested in taking Zhuo Fan's head back to Patriarch and earning his reward. For some reason, the Thunder Sword King was more interested in the Crown Prince's condition. But Bailey Jingtian was beyond reason, rage having taken over his faculties. Thunder Sword King, listen here. The Patriarch wants him dead. You have to get his head. I may not be able to do it myself, but I'm content with seeing him die. Bailey Yulei did not move, only looked around. Zhuo Fan ignored the threat above, walking with Chu Qingqing to the others and taking out a vial. He opened it and let green pills fly to his friends. Eat it, then take Qingqing and leave. Giving Chu Qingqing to Shui Ruohua, Zhuo Fan spoke calmly. Wu Qingxia rushed to say, but what about you? Someone must keep the Sword King here. Zhuo Fan stood and turned around with conviction. His eyes shone golden and black. Chapter 1071. Insist on leaving. Chapter 1071. Insist on leaving. Proofreader Papatonks. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan's sharp gaze met Bailey Yulei's eyes, making him shiver and feel threatened. That the kid actually had what it took to kill him. How is this possible? He may be strong, but only in the soul harmony stage. How can I feel danger from him? Bailey Yulei glanced at the one-armed crown prince, and his heart sank. Not just an average soul harmony expert, or the crown prince wouldn't suffer so much. And this is because I came on time, or the crown prince would have left this world. Bailey Yulei stared back at Zhuo Fan, feeling conflicted. The boy is nothing like the bluffer you said he is. He is inscrutable and hard to deal with. Bailey Yulei's brow shook, just standing there and facing Zhuo Fan as he did the same. The others had recovered with Zhuo Fan's pills, and could at least move now. They left this danger zone while tending to Chu Qingqing. Though it was now unclear if Zhuo Fan could take on a Sword King this time. Sword Kings were the peak of power in the central area, at the level of Morong Lai and Ouyang Lingtian. Zhuo Fan was the best disciple in the lands, even making a mockery of the central area's 10 princes. But he was just that, a disciple. He still had a long way to go before facing these seasoned veterans. The odds of getting out alive from a Sword King were practically nil. They all worried seeing Zhuo Fan facing such a danger with a straight back. Shui Ruohua was reminded of how Zhuo Fan had the girls go ahead while he stopped 500 people from following them, ending up fighting to death. She teared up as she pulled Chu Qingqing harder. Qingqing, today is just like that day. I just hope that this time he won't disappear like before. Zhuo Fan frowned as the others just stood there and shouted, why are you standing here? Go. Brother Zhuo, you have saved our lives. This gratitude I shall never forget. Ouyang Changqing spoke firmly and with pride. Now you are facing a strong enemy, and I'm not about to let you do it alone. This is not right. I am no coward. We may not be of much help, but we can at least cheer and share death and life together. Don't worry, Brother Zhuo, for you have us right behind you. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes, ticked off by this pompous fool cursing. Are you mental? You know you're of no help. So what damn use will you have? I told you to get Qingqing to safety, and I'll be grateful. Why would you stay to die when I'm giving my life? To hell with dying with you. Who'll look after my wife? All right. Brother Zhua. I am not like Yilin. I'll be sure to complete your request. I will definitely repay the favor. Ouyang Changqing nodded and cupped his hands. Yilin was annoyed. What was that? How are you different? Brother Zhua entrusted his wife to you, and what happened? You had the enemy endanger her, and take her hostage, not doing anything right. I am not so unreliable like you, and will fulfill my mission. Brother Zhua, I won't let you down. You only know how to prance around. The only reason they stopped us is because you didn't let us leave. Sister-in-law would have long been safe by now. You shouldn't cast blame so easily. How can you blame me? Think about it. If I could find you, wouldn't the princes find you at some point as well? I was saying, Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing were like natural enemies, fighting even now in this serious situation. Zhuo Fan popped a vein. Why do these fools always argue? Alone they were fine, but together they ruined everything. Bailey Jingtian laughed at seeing them bickering like fools. Don't you even think about running now. Thundersword King, go. Let's see how long you'll last. Bailey Jingtian pointed at them with hatred. Kill them all. I will be sure to commend you to the patriarch. The noise below instantly stopped at his order. They all turned to watch them in fear, especially Bailey Yulei. Zhuo Fan looked grave as well, calculating a way out of this. Bailey Yulei, however, was in no rush to follow his order. Bailey Jingtian started and looked in confusion. Thundersword King. He is a criminal that the patriarch wants. Why is it you're hesitating now when you're usually anxious to strike? Bailey Yulei glanced at him and scratched his nose. Bailey Jingtian's eye twitched, suspicion festering in his heart. Whoosh! Another person then showed up here, Bali Yu. Oh, Ouyang Changqing cried out but saw Zhuo Fan silent. Brother Zhua, isn't she with you? Why is she over there? Zhuo Fan only explained who she was to the leader, because she stole the heaven-sealing sword. Ouyang Changqing, a mere disciple, was in the dark. Bailey Yulei sighed, now finding a suitable excuse. Crown Prince, you're hurt now and would be best to retreat to tend your wounds. I'll take you to safety. Let's leave the grand merit to Yu, since Patriarch has been in a foul mood around her. I see. Thundersword King is looking after Frigid Rain Sword King, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian looked at them and his eyes shone. All right, let Frigid Rain Sword King take the credit. But I still want to watch as she rips Zhuo Fan's head from his corpse. Bali Yu and Bailey Yulei frowned. Bali Yu spoke. Crown Prince, you are a valuable talent that the Patriarch carefully raised. You need to look after yourself. With your heavy wounds, it's best we address them sooner. Just leave it to me. Brother Yulei, hurry and take the Crown Prince to safety. All right, Bailey Yulei nodded and acted. Bailey Jingtian flicked his hand in defiance. No, I'll never know peace unless I see Zhuo Fan die. I must watch how he is blown apart. Your Highness, leave it to me. Or do you not trust me? Bali Yu huffed. The Crown Prince's health is important to the Patriarch. Endangering you just so we could earn some credit will only earn his ire and wrath. Crown Prince, please tend to your wounds at once, and don't make it harder on us. Or we will have no choice but to insist on leaving. Bailey Jingtian winced. Frigid Rain Sword King, I appreciate your care. But I will have to insist. It has nothing to do with you. I will take full responsibility before the Patriarch. Crown Prince knows very well how the Patriarch is, going after the one who faulted. You believe just owning up will be enough? Bailey Yulei stared at him. I hope the Crown Prince won't make it any harder than it needs to be in taking care of yourself. We will have no choice but to insist if you delay any further. You are welcome to report us to the Patriarch, but we are doing this for your own good, which I'm sure he'll understand. Bali Jingtian eyes shook, staring at the Sword King, and then at Zhuo Fan, gnashing his teeth. I shall refrain from speaking the worst, since we are all the foundation of the Bailey clan, and do not want to break the harmony. But Sword Kings, you need to understand, is this worth it? Bailey Yulei shook and sighed. Crown Prince, after you. Fine, I hope you won't regret it later. Bailey Jingtian flicked his lone hand, and spat before flying off. Bali Yulei gave Bali Yu a relieved look then followed him. Now only one Sword King remained, showing a peculiar smile to Zhuofan. Chapter 1072 Pursuit. Chapter 1072 Pursuit. Proofreader, Papatonks. Floating down gently, like a breeze, Baliyu kept her cold eyes on Zhuofan as she approached. The others were tense, taking a step back in worry. Baliyu had been with Zhuofan for a while, but they had no idea what went on between them. They were utterly confused whether Frigid Rain Sword King's bloodthirst was friendly or antagonistic. They just couldn't figure it out, further raising their anxiety. On just what side is this woman standing? Sighing, Zhuofan put on a smile as he glanced at the approaching Baliyu. I never expected you of all people to take my side at this time. Are you blind or something? How am I on your side? Humph, narcissist. Pausing, Baliyu glared again at Zhuofan, but her cheeks were now a bit rosy while her eyes spat fire. The patriarch wants your puny life. I came to collect it. The rest trembled, looking tense as they watched with hearts in their throat. Zhuofan just shook his head. You'd have killed me by now if that was the case, and not forced the crown prince to leave. And who was that brother, such a loyal Sword King? He knows he's crossing Baliutian yet still agreed to help you? Though your brother's a bit soft, why did he wish to help you save me, yet still spare the crown prince's life? Won't he be more at ease by removing the star witness? Brother Yulei seems like a rough man usually, but he's in fact the most friendly among us Sword Kings. The crown prince is the pillar of the Bailey clan, and brother could not just watch him to die. Glaring some more, Baliyu had finally reached him. You're nothing but evil. He risked so much to help you, yet you still wanted to use him to kill your enemies, his own kin. Have you no sympathy? Morong Shua bobbed her head, glaring with hatred at Zhuofan. Ouyang Chongqing cleared his throat. Ahem, Sister Shua, please mind the situation. Brother Zhua is on our side. His death means ours as well. Irresolute and compromising in morals, humph. Morong Shua turned her sharp glare on him. She was opposite of Zhuofan, against everything he believed, but she now had to put all these aside as she walked with the devil in these circumstances. This was the result of being helpless, of having the conscience to aspire to the greater good, but sometimes becoming utterly powerless against doing anything about it. All she could do was to keep herself unmarred by this devil. Vigilance was what staved off evil. As the saying goes, good triumphs over evil, but just because someone says it doesn't mean they aren't a demon themselves. Shrugging, Baliyu's critique went right over Zhuofan, who chuckled. I don't have much sympathy to speak of, but I do know how to appreciate you two risking yourselves to help me. I will be sure to return the favor when you are in difficulty. Screw you. You are the one in difficulty. Baliyu snapped her sharp eyes on him, refuting his words. Zhuofan shook his head, his eyes shimmering. Today you helped me and difficulties are still going to come in the future. Ha ha ha, anywho, I'll be sure to remember your help. Now come along. Zhuofan turned and put on a grave face. There's still a distance to the teleportation array. Let's move right away. It should be 15 minutes, even less if we hurry. Wu Qingxiu added. Zhuofan nodded and waved over Baliyu. Yu, escort them out of here. You're still ordering me around like a servant. Didn't you decide to follow me just now? Zhuofan cocked an eyebrow and smiled. Just like on the caravan trail, listen to my orders. Or you can just take my life like Baliutian ordered you to, your choice. Why you? Baliyu was conflicted, giving an angry huff, but still walked ahead and roared back at them. Don't dawdle and run. Once other Sword Kings notice, there will be no escaping. Baliyu shot forward. Her word though did not carry any rancor. The others were stumped, but then they came to and hurried after her. When they glanced at Zhuofan, they were filled with shock and admiration. Ouyang Chongqing patted Zhuofan's shoulder. Brother Zhuo, awesome. You're even poaching from the Invincible Swords team. His core members even. It used to be him and Bailey Jingwei who did the poaching so far, with Shengguan Feiyun and Danqing Shun running over to their side. Now Brother Zhuo had won over Frigid Rain Sword King, giving the Four Lands a reason to be proud. How did you do it? A good looks. Zhuo Fan scratched his beyond-average face. He then went to Chu Qingqing's side, helping her with Shui Ruohua to rush to the teleportation array. Good looks. Ouyang Chongqing frowned, scratching his own perfect face, mulling. Brother Zhui used the honey trap and it worked? Doesn't that mean with my traits? Was there another woman sword king in central area? Meanwhile, Crown Prince Bailey Jingtian flew with a dark face with Bailey Yulei watching him like a hawk. 3 people suddenly showed up and Bailey Jingtian cried, "Sword Kings, please wait." They paused, which only made Bailey Yulei frown. He saw Bailey Jingtian's look, and could tell what he was planning. He couldn't knock the prince out now, not in front of them. "Oh, it's the Crown Prince and Brother Yulei, how come you're together?" The trio looked curiously. The Crown Prince should be with the juniors, and no Sword King would just waste time with them. So why? The trio scanned them and said in shock, "Crown Prince, your arm." "Don't remind me." Sighing, Bailey Jingtian looked morose and in pain as he teared up. "The patriarch wanted Zhuo Fan's head, right? So my brothers and I went to get it." "You found him?" They gasped and then looked down. "Curses, doesn't that mean they got all the credit for themselves?" "Crown Prince, then you must have won then and took his head. Did the other princes take it to the patriarch for a reward?" The tears only grew larger in his eyes as Bailey Jingtian shook his head. "What reward when the punk was savage? All my brothers have died at his hands. Even I lost my right arm. It's only thanks to Thunder Sword King that I still kept my life." "What?" The trio gave them a long look, stunned. "The Crown Prince is the best among his peers, among all the lands. But not even with the other 9 princes could he beat that kid? Devil Mountain disciples are anything but normal." The shock was brief and their eyes shone again. This time on Bailey Yulei with a fake smile and cupped hands. "Then Brother Yulei must have taken the credit, congratulations. The patriarch will be sure to reward you well. Maybe he will even let you observe Sundering Sword for a few months and train. Brother Yulei's power will be the highest among us, ha ha ha." Bailey Yulei's face sank against these duplicitous kin of his. All he could do was nod. "I fear you misunderstand." Bailey Jingtian recalled the hatred and fury from before and waved. "Thunder Sword King is so noble that seeing me hurt, wanted to take me to safety and recover. I am touched by his dedication to even forego the great reward." Then the head, the trio lit up. With a vile smirk, Bailey Yulei pointed behind, his sinister gaze peeking at Bailey Yulei. Frigid Rain Sword King happened to be there. Thunder Sword King let her take the credit. But the kid is quite skilled, while Frigid Rain Sword King had been around the kid for a while. She wouldn't be killing him so soon. She ought to be playing first. "If you all right, we'll go there right now." The trio bobbed their heads, gave a rushed salute, and they were off where Crown Prince graciously pointed. Bailey Jingtian smirked at Bailey Yulei in insufferable smugness. "Thunder Sword King, now you can look after me, ha ha ha." Bailey Yulei have a helpless nod and a sigh. You, my hands are tied. Those 3 won't let go of such a reward as easy. You're on your own. If you're willing to break it off with our clan over that kid, then no one can help you." Chapter 1073 Trick. Chapter 1073 Trick. Proofreader Papatonks. Hurry it up faster. Are you snails? Get a move on. Bali Yu was like a shrew with a whip, driving the herd while roaring at the top of her lungs. The guys were doing their best at running, while also having to endure the hag's incessant complaints. Ouyang Chongqing was the first to cave. He was the best disciple in Seabright sect. After all, how could he suffer such indignity? Alas, not even he could muster the courage to really tell her off, not since she was a sword king on equal level as his dad. Sister, we're wounded. Could you take it just a bit slower? Try to underdash. You understand." Bali Yu snapped harder, spraying while saying, "Your weakness got you those wounds. You couldn't even hold your own against 10 brats. Just what the hell have you been doing all these years? A bunch of rejects, rabble worms." Bali Yu had turned even more obnoxious. If that was even possible, not taking a break in her insults and criticisms. Ouyang Chongqing made himself small and shook, never to open his mouth again despite the shame he felt. "You think yapping helped anyone? That it's that easy to fight Bailey Jingtian, a freak? Just how long did it take to get to the stage of a Sword King anyway? Then look at our ages, could we compare? Which? Worms trashug. Bali Yuyu's curses were still as savage, telling it to everyone. Whether encouragement or whipping. All was good so long as they hurried the hell up. 15 minutes wasn't long nor short. But a Sword King could catch up to them in no time at all. What would she do then, if one did find them? If she ended up fighting them, that would be betraying her clan, becoming an outcast forever. While ignoring the kids would be a death sentence, Zhuofan included, the only one she couldn't accept to see dead. This was the cause behind her anxiety. It only worked to drive her temper higher, and take it out on them, in the form of a nasty witch. Only this witch ended up mute the second she looked in Zhuofan's icy eyes while passing by, only to resume her heckling once she turned to the rest. Everyone else's admiration for him only grew. Zhuofan not just poached invincible swordsmen, but even has a Sword King at his beck and call. Awesome. Is it really just looks though? Ouyang Changqing's hand flashed and took out a hand mirror, his sharp features reflecting in it. I'm certainly not behind that department, so why is sister? Pa! Then came Bali Yuyu's slap out of nowhere, shocking him silly. What is a grown man looking at his face for? You're worse than a woman. Get to stepping. Ouyang Changqing's face sank, his shoulders sagged, and his head hung as he played the good doggy. The other snickered and Zhuofan shook his head. This guy sure is a clown. Whoosh! Bali Yuyu froze just then, her face darkening. Zhuofan frowned, looking back to shout at her. Yuyu, send these two off. Zhuofan hinted at Chu Qingqing and Shui Ruohua. What about you? Bali Yuyu got his meaning, only making her worry more. Zhuofan shook his head. Qingqing is the one I can never let go. And I trust no one else more with Qingqing than senior sister Shui. You must take them, and I'll be at ease. I'll then go to North Sea where they'll have a hard time finding me. Chu Qingqing's dull gaze entered Bali Yuyu's sight, with a complicated feeling. She turned to Zhuofan in hesitation. Yuyu, you turned your back on Bailey Yutian to save me. I am truly touched. I am sorry for telling you that I didn't need you. Now I do need you, to take my wife to safety. Zhuofan stared into her eyes as he spoke. You know that staying won't help blocking the three of them anyway. Moreover, do you really want to wear the stigma of a traitor? You came to help me and don't want to see you suffer for it. It's best if you don't meet with them. Take the girls, I have my own means of surviving. Don't you trust me after all we've been through? Bali Yuyu gnashed her teeth, then grabbed Chu Qingqing and Shui Ruohua. She shot straight for the teleportation array. Her voice echoed from behind. Make sure you don't die, rascal. Hey, why is sister leaving? Ouyang Changqing blinked, asking Zhuofan what was going on. Zhuofan smiled. You can't sense it since you're wounded. We felt 3 strong presences rushing over. They must be 3 Sword Kings. She helped me due to our friendship, but in the dark. She can't be found out by the others, so I had her take the girls to safety. Brother Zhuo, what about us? Ouyang Changqing started, his eyes big as saucers. Zhuofan mocked as he pointed at himself with smug confidence. Don't you have me? You can fight a Sword King? Myself? No, but I came more than prepared on this trip up north. I even have ways to deal with that coot invincible sword. Zhuofan's eyes flashed, turning back and looking with a fierce face. Not to mention, their target is me. There's no escape now. Whoosh! 3 figures appeared in the sky, the power of the Sword Kings enveloping them all and making them shiver. Only Zhuofan was still calm, with a mocking grin on his face. I heard Bailey's 5 Sword Kings are each amazing. I've met Thunder Sword King and Frigid Rain Sword King. Then you must be Tempest Sword King, Cloud Sword King and Infernal Sword King. Ha ha ha, Sir Zhua, it's been a while. We were all getting along so well, but now it seems that you became our target. How things change, ha ha ha. They cupped their hands to Zhuofan and laughed, though their eyes glittered, seeing him only as a glittering jewel. Sir Zhua, we heard that Frigid Rain Sword King might be here, and we also just sensed her trace. How come she isn't? Zhou Fan showed his pearly whites, sporting an evil face. Who, that dumb broad? Ha ha ha. She was as much of a conceited moron as you are. Trying to take my head. Humph, she fled after I got her good. I'm only standing here and not going after her to end her, because I sensed you were coming. What? The trio cried in shock. You mean you wounded Frigid Rain Sword King? No way. You're just a soul harmony. Zhou Fan mocked them. And it was Bali Yu who told you that, I reckon? Ha ha ha. And you believed her? What's that supposed to mean? The trio shook and frowned. With a sly smirk on his face, Zhou Fan squinted. Bailey Yutian pestered Bali Yu into helping me. But it was to read me, isn't it? You think I couldn't tell such an obvious trick? Humph. So why then would I show up all my cards to her? I bet you don't even know that your brats are almost all dead. With only the last one saved in time by Frigid Rain Sword King and Thunder Sword King. Not much of a save though, since I didn't care about him anyway and didn't hunt him down. For not even 2 Sword Kings could stop me from killing my prey. Humph, I am a Devil Mountain disciple, and don't you forget it. The aura of a king oozed out of Zhou Fan, and, despite being below the Genesis stage, everyone felt a shiver. Even the Sword Kings couldn't stave off the chill. Are Devil Mountain disciples that incredible? Does Frigid Rain Sword King's report only contain things he wanted to tell? Then they had to be extra cautious around him, especially since he gave a heavy wound to a Sword King. Against the great credit the trio was about to earn with ease, they started to hesitate. Zhou Fan was, of course, only bluffing and made himself bigger than he was, something the trio were totally oblivious of, scared by his blustering. Chapter 1074. The Three Wounded. Chapter 1074. The Three Wounded. Proofreader Papatonks. Are these Sword Kings muscle heads to believe everything I say? Looking at the shaking Sword Kings above, Zhou Fan smirked. Brother Zhou, to think you're so strong that you even defeated a Sword King. Ouyang Chongqing looked at him with reverence. Bailey Jingtian hardly needed you to break a sweat. With Brother Zhou by our side, we're at ease. But Brother Zhou, how do you train to become beyond a Sword King so soon when you're our peer? We should have the same resources. So how are you so obscenely strong? Zhou Fan's brow twitched as he glanced at the pompous fool. Brother Ouyang, what is it, in your opinion, the most important in the cultivation world? I know that Dad told me. It's loyalty. No, it's tricking. Zhou Fan roared. You know exactly what went on with Frigid Rain Sword King. And now you even fell for my blustering? Or have you been cultivating the same as these Sword Kings, to become a muscle head? Morong Shui giggled, earning their odd looks, but turned serious the next second. The rest chuckled as well. Ouyang Chongqing figured it out at last. Oh, brothers tricked them. And they believed you? It depends on how solid the lie is. Their biggest doubt is whether Frigid Rain Sword King has run off. As long the truth isn't revealed, we can maintain this stalemate. Zhou Fan's eyes shone. And then? Ouyang Chongqing asked. Won't we end up dead when they finally find out? Sure, because this is just a temporary plan to stall. Once help arrives, all will be settled. Help? Who? You'll know in time. But if she doesn't hurry, I'll be found out. Well, not finished, but, Zhou Fan frowned. Ouyang Chongqing was clueless. He had no idea that Zhou Fan's goal was to get to the North Sea for the CAO and nothing else. The flames of war between the central area and the Four Lands could reach the heavens for all he cared. Sure, he could act as the third party to break the stalemate on the two's conflict, but that would only cut at his profits. For instance, he had it in him to finish the invincible sword then and there. But why would he? That would mean the collapse of the central area, and the Four Lands wouldn't be worn out any longer. Their armies would race to the central area to get their share of the spoils. This would end in the lands winning big and him getting nothing. Only when the two sides choke each other to the last man would he have the most to gain. While the central area and the Four Lands wanted to lord over the other, Zhou Fan wanted them in balance. The same way he raised the Luo clan while facing tough but complex factions. It wouldn't help to break the balance until he milked it for all it was worth. Then after rise to take it all. And that was no easy feat either. though his ambitions weren't something that any of the factions were privy to. As they spilled each other's blood, they were blissfully unaware of a common enemy cheering them on without lifting a finger to help, let alone harming a Sword King. The Four-Land Alliance would have died in regret if it knew. They invited the wolf and even appointed him Grand Marshal. Sweating a little, the three Sword Kings above had fallen for Zhuofan's ruse, lost as to what to do. A thin man turned to a middle-aged man. Brother Yian, for him to inflict heavy harm on you, he must be as strong as around 3 Sword Kings, or you wouldn't have gotten the chance to escape otherwise. That means even if we work together, we might still not take him down. Yeah, on account of his words being true, Bailey Yian muttered. The pudgy man with sideburns rushed to add, but his words matched the Crown Prince's story. This proves Yu's report was wrong. How can a soul harmony cultivator harm the Crown Prince like that? And he did it all without any traps. Yu must have been in the dark of his strength, as well to be forced to flee in defeat. Why else would the Crown Prince say Yu is here only to not catch a glimpse of her? What other reason is there for not taking such credit besides being beaten back? The trio looked at each other with Bailey Yian saying, "This is even worse. Devil Mountain isn't weak, but beyond strong. Someone we can never offend. Yet we just did. We need to silence him." The lanky man slanted his head and spoke with sharp eyes. "None can be left alive, not even the kids. Alas, the guy's power is still unclear. Will we be able to?" Bailey Yian squinted, showing a crafty look. "The kid may be tough to crack, but the others are dead weight. Seeing how he's with them, there must be someone among them he cares enough to affect his calm. I'll keep him busy, testing him and drawing to the side while you kill the rest. The instant he's distracted, we'll strike him hard together. This will tell us who among them he cares the most. The faster we find his weakness, the easier it'll be to finish him." "Well, brilliant, Brother Yin." The two gave him a thumbs up. The trio then turned to their victims, no longer hesitating and ready for action. Zhuofan's heart sank. They sure are Sword Kings to come up with a plan so soon. This is the end of the ruse then. Having come up with a plan, there's no need for hesitation. Whoosh! The trio shot like hawks upon the kids. Bailey Yian went for Zhuofan, while the other two split up and went around to target the wounded group. Even if by some miracle Zhuofan was a Sword King, he'd still be stuck. He had no way of protecting himself and everyone else. The crux was, he wasn't and he couldn't even defend against a Sword King. Under the bubbling pressure slamming into them, the others shivered and paled. Zhuofan frowned, touching the flickering ring with a sigh. "With no time left, I have no choice but to step in." Ripples spread from his ring as immense power surges flashed. Zhuofan raised his hand, his eyes cold. "Since they came to die." Whoosh! But then the sudden sword energies shot and forced the Sword Kings to slant out of the way. The sword energies cut a hole in their clothes, close to harming them. Who did that? The trio glared and turned back. A familiar voice echoed in everyone's ears. "Ha ha ha. Sword Kings are great men having been in this world for thousands of years, yet they like picking on little kids." "Dad! Elder brother!" Ouyang Chongqing and Morong Shui shouted in joy. The saviors were none other than 3 people, all wielding divine swords: Morong Lai, Ouyang Lingtian and Shengguan Feixiong. Though they were looking a bit pale there, even with their imposing presence, one could also not mistake the blood at their mouths, a sign of a heavy wound. Regardless, they chose to force themselves through the pain and face the 3 Sword Kings without remorse. Zhuofan raised his hand only to put it down with a sigh. Now that there's someone here to stop them, there's no need to waste energy, hehe. "Brother Zhuo, you're so amazing to know help will come. With Dad in them, the Sword Kings can't do anything to us, ha ha ha." Ouyang Chongqing was ecstatic. "Oh, what do we do now? Look for a safe place to watch them fight or cheer them on. Brother Zhuo, with your cunning mind, what do you think it's best?" Zhuofan glanced at him. "The help I mention isn't them, though they're not a bad choice since they're here. So we should just run." Zhuofan shouted the last word, and signaled the others to scramble after him for the teleportation array, leaving them in a daze. Reacting after a long time, they asked, "Brother Zhua, why would we run? We were dangerously close to having my trick found out. Now that someone actually lent a helping hand, only a fool would just stay to watch and die." Zhua Fan urged the rest to run like hell, while he barked at the pompous Ouyang Changqing. Ouyang Changqing was bemused. "Aren't they here already? Why?" Bang! 3 booms drowned his voice as 3 figures slammed the ground in front of them, splattering the earth with their blood. They were none other than the 3 divine sword wielders, their helpers. The swords in their hands hummed, as if mournful at the humiliation. Ouyang Changqing gaped at seeing his father down. How could his father with the divine sword even fall in one blow? Chapter 1075, You're Wrong. Chapter 1075, You're Wrong. Proofreader Papatonks. The certain shade of red blood could give a certain luster when splattered. It contrasted with Ouyang Lingtian and the other two's pale faces, their feeble appearances and hopeless looks. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui were gasping in disbelief. They had never seen their kin damaged to such an extent. How can this be? There were only 3 sword kings, almost on par with them. Not to mention they had the divine sword's help, all 3 of them. So why then did they fail instead of win? What happened? Zhua Fan was the only one sharp enough to figure it out, sighing. I hoped they'd last some more, but those heavy wounds didn't help. Wounds? Murong Shui snapped her eyes at him. Brother and them were hurt before? Zhua Fan gave a flat nod. Their first attacks to stop the Sword Kings might have looked great, but were shallow. They must have used their last drop to scare them. Pretty much like I've done it. Oh? What? All asked at once. Zhua Fan smirked. They don't have my acting skills. They tried to look calm, but the sweaty brows gave away the fact that they were running out of steam. Even the strongest of their land, and wielding a divine sword, their energy was bone dry. I hoped they'd stall for a while longer, but they couldn't even last a hit. They must have suffered so badly before that they can't even fight to death now. The others shook at the explanation. The 3 mighty experts, with divine swords too, were their hope at survival, only to be smashed into the ground before them. They were damaged to begin with, unable to even help themselves. Thus it only worked to scare the enemy off, and failed miserably when their bluff failed. What were they going to do then against the Sword Kings? Die! They all paled, looking at each other with dead eyes. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui rushed to their kin to help them up. Shangguan Feixiong was the only one alone, with no one lending a hand. Is no one going to help this old man? Did I not just come to save you kids? Shangguan Feixiong complained, looking at his other peers being helped, and his mood soured. Pa! A large hand just then held him by the shoulder. Turning, he saw a familiar smile. Ha ha ha, Shangguan clan head. I told you, soaring swords unsealing was never going to be good for you. Wielding it, you had to fight that invincible monster. And unable to defeat him, this is how you end up. While not using soaring sword, you'd be out as a frontline commander. Now do you know the meaning of a blessing in disguise? Shangguan Feixiong shuddered and gave Zhua Fan a bitter smile. Sir Zhua's foresight is flawless. I knew that with my strength, that I wouldn't be a match to that old freak, even with the soaring sword. But this is what a man does. I would gladly lay down my life, if it means the 4 lands will thrive. TCH, if the old geezer was that easy to snuff out, you'd never be so afraid of him. Zhua Fan taunted. Shangguan Feixiong nodded and sighed. I was only wishing for it. It would have been my life's glory if it worked. Shangguan Feixiong turned a deep gaze on Zhua Fan. Sir Zhua, from central area to northern lands, every time I struck misfortune, it's always you that lends a hand. I am touched by your friendship. As long as the Shangguan clan survives this war, my clan will never deny any of your requests in time of need, as gratitude for fighting shoulder to shoulder. Better save that for when the Shangguan clan actually sees tomorrow, though you better be sure that I remember this favor. Don't regret it later, hehehe. I won't, even if you want my daughter's hand, I'll accept without remorse. Now hold it there. I'm a married man. I don't need you to sell her to me. And a true man has a couple or four by his side. Yenner might be against it, but will be sure to accept it if it's you. Now I'm badly hurt, and only you came to my aid, already looking like a son-in-law. I told you to hold it, are you deaf? Wu Qingqiu, you take the old man. Seeing Shangguan Feixiong still trying to stick to him through his daughter, Zhuo Fan tried to stop him only to finally push him on Wu Qingqiu. Wu Qingqiu was a man of virtue, and accepted it gladly. Morong Shui and Ouyang Chongqing glanced at each other, looking at their own kin in shock. They're hurt because they fought the invincible sword. Ouyang Lingtian coughed and sighed with a lowered head, still not accepting the outcome himself. Is the invincible sword strong enough to hurt all three of you divine sword wielders? Morong Shui gasped in disbelief. The plan was to use the three divine swords against Bailey Yutian in the first place, to stall him while their reinforcements came, and then drown him in numbers. It clearly didn't work. Bailey Yutian's mere slash had them crushed, all three of them. Unable to stall Bailey Yutian, their plan went up in smoke. If not for Zhuo Fan's plan to fight to the death, their own plan would have fallen through on the spot by now. While now they had a sliver of hope in victory, they believed that with Zhuo Fan's plan, with 2 lands worth of soldiers, they could turn it around. The invincible sword hurt us badly. We used the divine swords to shield ourselves, but still only barely escaped with our lives. Ouyang Lingtian's brow shook inside. Bailey Yutian is beyond human in strength. Not even together could we touch him. Morong Lai closed his eyes morose, shaking his head in despair. Ha ha ha, now you know the patriarch's power, but it's too late. Everyone shuddered, looking up at one of the 3 sword kings surrounding them, Bailey Yuyun. Your appearance made us realize that you're ready to drop, and that you all have no strength to go on. We've been around Patriarch for so long, and yet we've never seen anyone surviving his strike. You only managed to because of those divine swords. Otherwise you'd be corpses by now. And damaged as you are now, you still want to fight us? Fools. Ouyang Lingtian gasped, and his face twisted in fury. He flicked his hand and the sword in it, pointing at the trio. Chongqing, escort Sir Zhuo and the others out of here. Get to the teleportation array, and you'll all be safe. Morong Lai stood up by himself next to Ouyang Lingtian, looking pale but still willing to fight. Shangguan Feixiong coughed as he forced himself to stand. I may be feeble, but I have no regret giving my decrepit body if it means protecting the kids. The future of the 4 lands, ha ha ha. Father, Ouyang Chongqing cried out. Ouyang Lingtian cut him off, his voice stern. Chongqing, I know you're worried about me, but don't worry. Your safety will be the one thing to put me at ease, now go. Father. Stop. You should get there with your speed in a minute. I can still hold them back for at least this much. Father. Go. Ouyang Lingtian held his divine sword, roaring and ready to die. Ouyang Chongqing scratched his head, hanging his head. Father, you're wrong there. That's not what I meant. We're hurt just like you and can't fly fast, needing 15 minutes to reach the teleportation array. Would you be able to hold a little longer? Ugh. The 3 of them shuddered and froze. Damn prodigal son. Chapter 1076, The Tigress is Here. Chapter 1076, The Tigress is Here. Proofreader, Papatonks. Face twitching hard, Ouyang Lingtian jerked his head to the smiling Ouyang Chongqing. What was that? Ha ha ha, Father, easy now. You can't blame us since they were stronger than us, and all ended up hurt. Brother Zhuo gave us a pill just recently, and only then could we move again. That's the only reason you see us standing before you, and not on the ground. Scratching his head, Ouyang Chongqing explained bashfully. Ouyang Lingtian stared long at him, then turned to the 3 sword kings. Was it them who hurt you? Humph, a great sword king could erase you in one strike. What would be the point of torturing kids? Wrong, Ouyang Lingtian, we have our dignity and yet to wallow in some sick hobbies. We'd never do that to some kids. Bailey Yuyun mocked them, pointing at them. If you really want to know, just ask them. Ouyang Lingtian turned an inquisitive look at his son. Ouyang Changqing mumbled a bit and looked shyly. Father, we've met with the Bailey princes and ended up. Ended up how? All three of the divine sword wielders asked at the same time. The kids were all looking down and ashamed, crushed. You wrecked the 10 princes by yourselves? They cried out at once. The Four Lands heroes have truly capable successors. Ouyang Changqing sighed as their elders jumped the gun. Dad, what are you saying? It's them who wrecked us. The trio gasped, their hearts sinking into despair. The princes were all so tough, especially Bailey Jingtian. Brother Yi Lin and I had to work together. Yet we still couldn't make him take us seriously. He wiped the floor with us easily. The others were also felled by the 9 princes too. In one strike while we couldn't even touch them. Dad, just how did those Bailey freaks train? It's like they were leagues above us from the Four Lands. Ouyang Changqing asked his seniors, but they froze up like statues, with Ouyang Lingtian droning on. The royalty of the Sword Star Empire is unstoppable. Bailey Yutian crushed us in one strike. Even our strongest juniors were unable to match the princes. Father and son ended up as punching bags. The Four Lands' strongest wiped, regardless of age. We may go above and beyond with our sacrifices to win this war. But then what about our children? The invincible sword might die, but a new invincible sword will appear in the central area. Ouyang Lingtian sank in despair, unable to see a way out of this horrible nightmare. The other two sighed. Sword Star Empire is strong in every generation, destroying Four Lands' every last hope. What then is the point of even fighting? Even if we somehow get to stop this generation's invincible sword, what will our kids do when the next one appears? The three sighed again. Ha ha ha, Ouyang Lingtian, Morong Lai, ignorant fools, you've got yourself cooped up in seclusion to fight Patriarch, to the point you turn blind to the ever-changing world outside. Bailey Yuyan laughed with immense pride, his patronizing cutting deep. Our empire has potential and strength beyond what your lands can offer. Not only Patriarch and the 5 Sword Kings can crush you, but even our juniors can wipe the floor with your top disciples. For we are the strongest clan in the world. We are above you in every single way. Your obsession to resist will only delay your end and prolong your pain. Ouyang Lingtian, how your son ended is proof of that. You can fight our empire for a decade, century, thousands of years, yet still have not the slightest chance at winning. The trio shook, their faces sinking harder, and the divine sword slipping out of their grip. The confidence of these true experts was destroyed. The Sword Kings jeered harder. Bullshit. Ouyang Changqing had never seen his father so down, snapping in anger. He stomped over to Zhuofan, baffling him, and shouting at the Sword Kings above. What strongest clan? That's nothing but utter horse crap. I had yet to finish talking. We have indeed lost at the hand of your princes, but all your 10 princes were just as easily destroyed by Brother Zhuo here as well. The Sword Kings flinched, turning to Zhuofan and looking grave. Ouyang Lingtian watched curiously now. Ouyang Changqing held his head high like he did it. Brother Zhuo, Big Brother Zhuo, is a genius to shake the gods and shock the world. What could your princes possibly do? Big Brother Zhuo wiped out 9 of them in a flash. You got that? They didn't even have time to fight back. Even Bailey Jingtian, the last one, lost his arm and fled like a coward, and only with the help of 2 Sword Kings. Humph. Ouyang Changqing went 1. We ended up defeated by your 10 princes. Yet that's enough to declare the central area above us? Then, since Big Brother Zhuo destroyed your princes in a flash, leaving 1 crippled, still make you superior? Calling yourself the best clan in the world, then who do you take Zhuofan for? Humph. Well, let me tell you. Get off your high horse, for one day the Zhuo clan will take over. Big Brother Zhuo is the second invincible sword. No, that guy's nothing. Big Brother Zhuo will be even stronger. Ouyang Changqing flared his nostrils at the Sword Kings, barking on and on like the greatest man there ever was, cocky and obnoxious. He spoke of everything like it was some grand achievement. Zhuofan chuckled. Brother Ouyang, since you're so keen on placing hatred on someone, take it yourself and not drag me into this. I have no intention to compete with Bailey clan. Brother Zhua, I would have taken it all if I could fight. Just look what that got me. Ouyang Chongqing turned his sparkling eyes to him. You saw it yourself, how cocky those wretched fools are. Their words almost crushed Dad on the inside. I could not just watch and had to support my father and the other land's heroes, to show them the light. And I only spoke the truth. With Brother Zhua's power, it's only a matter of time before you replace the arrogant Bailey clan in lording over the world. I have faith in you. I call you Big Brother now, coming into your clan. So now you have to take a stand. Do this and I shall follow your every word to the letter. What do you say? Zhua Fan eyed him long and hard. The war took place in northern lands, where both sides focused their forces, while his faction would use the other 4 empty lands to develop, now that he had the chance. But once everything settled, northern lands would be hard to influence. So with Ouyang Chongqing as the big boss around these parts would be a nice back door to spread his grip. Zhua Fan gave a reluctant nod. Might as well set myself a foothold here. Ouyang Chongqing grinned, finally able to be as cocky as he wanted on another's reputation. All of this wasn't on impulse either, birthed from the incredible worship he had in Zhua Fan. Ever since he witnessed Zhua Fan crushing the 10 princes like nothing, he knew then and there why Yi Lin held Zhua Fan in such high regard. Be it in wisdom or boldness, Zhua Fan had it all to fight even those old fogies. His action was more like an investment. He accepted Zhua Fan as one to shake the world with his actions, and Ouyang Chongqing definitely wanted to be right there to relish in it. He might be pompous, but his goals were lofty since young, to be the best of the best. Though by the looks of it, with so many freaks around, it proved difficult. So he chose to stick to the freakiest around, to lord over the rest of the masses. Now that's a great bet. Ouyang Lingtian turned to Zhua Fan, gasping but also feeling hope stirring in his crushed heart. The Bailey clan was not almighty. Someone would come to dethrone them. And that someone is Zhua Fan. The Sword Kings above did not deny Ouyang Chongqing's ravings, slowly nodding their heads. Yes, well said, boy. If the central area is a cut above the other lands, then Devil Mountain Disciple's power is beyond the profane world, shaking even us. That's why we won't let him grow. Kill him. Bailey Yiyun shouted, and the trio shot for Zhua Fan. Ouyang Lingtian and the others too used their last strength to roar and stop them. Sir Zhua, run. We'll stop them. Humph, damaged as you are? The Sword Kings mocked. A flash of thunder followed by rumbling came out of nowhere. Who dares touch father shall die. Zhua Fan smirked. You're late, Xiaoer. Chapter 1077. Here's your strongest clan. Chapter 1077. Here's your strongest clan. Proofreader Papatonks. Boom! Purple lightning flashed at the horizon, unleashing 3 attacks on the Sword Kings before they reached Zhua Fan. They had to flick their hands to stop the lightning strikes from hitting them, and they frowned as the attack forced them back. Who is it that can unleash the same type of lightning as the Sundering Sword? Whoosh! Xiaoer flashed in front of Zhua Fan, giggling. Father, I'm just in time. No, you're late. Zhua Fan grinned and shrugged teasingly. Any later and you'd have to scrape your poor old man from the ground. Xiaoer gave a sly grin. No, I wouldn't. Dad has so many aces those 3 wouldn't be able to touch you. Who can say? Maybe I'm so stingy I'll never use any. We still need to reach North Sea as well, and should be used in case of certain doom only, ha ha ha. Zhua Fan shook his head, at which Xiaoer smiled and wrinkled her cute nose. Dad, that's petty. While they were having a moment there between father and daughter, the rest were just shell-shocked. Ouyang Chongqing jerked awake. Hey, big brother Zhua, why your miss? What? That miss of yours that interfered. Ouyang Chongqing gesticulated as he found it hard to speak the right words, stammering. Jay, just how old is she? The rest gasped at the young miss in disbelief. She looked around 6, but she just struck thrice with the power of around peak soul harmony stage. A junior with that power would be a mighty talent indeed. But then what would that make her, still a twerp yet wielding so much power? Just what is wrong with this world? Ouyang Lingtian's team was just as stunned as the rest of them. Thinking about it, they had seen Zhuo Fan with his daughter, but was written off as extra in their minds of no import. Only now they saw her as a real threat. Were all those around Zhuo Fan freaks of nature? Shengguan Feixiong had it the worst. He could still remember the young boy Zhuo Fan had with him back in the central area. The same boy who punched Shengguan Feiyin so hard he spurted blood. Now he showed up with a girl. Is the Zhuo clan a den of monsters? Everyone gave Zhuo Fan astonishing looks. Zhuo Fan gave a light wave, though finding no need to answer Ouyang Changqing. Shower, now I can rest easy with you here. I'll leave the Sword Kings to you. Make sure they don't follow and do be careful. Their nature is in opposition with yours, so don't meet their sundering sword art. Don't worry, Dad, I know, hee. Shower flicked her twin ponytails as she turned around to stare at her targets with insufferable smugness. Dad says you three can't pass me, unless you want to die. I feel heaven's generosity for life, so I'll make it easy for you. If you don't budge, then you get to live longer. Dong! The minds of all boomed like drums at the young Missy's blustering, unable to wrap their heads around how a wee girl could be so arrogant. Then they realized. Right, like father like daughter, insufferably arrogant both of them. While the next reaction was, is the girl crazy? She may be in the soul harmony stage at her incredibly young age, practically a miracle, but no matter how outrageous, she's no match for Sword Kings. It'd be a loss upon this world, for such a gem, to be nipped in the cradle. Looking at the cute girl standing tallish, with that mighty look on her face, had Ouyang Lingtian, and the rest feel it was such a pity, giving blaming looks to Zhuo Fan. We can understand the child being rash, obnoxious and wild, since it's her nature, but you as her father, are supposed to act your age and not send your own daughter to her death. Why the hell would you? Zhuo Fan flicked his hand, walking away. In 15 minutes you'll all be safe through the teleportation array as I escort you. I also want to see for myself that Qingqing has left. Big brother Zhuo. You're going to leave and leave my niece here all by herself. Ouyang Changqing was quite forward, first calling him big brother, and now treating Qiaoer as his niece, all stuck to him like glue. Zhuo Fan eyed him then chuckled. The kid sure has no sense of shame, just like me. In the poor days of the Luo clan, he was anxious to get some backing for it, so he used the same tactic on Long Jiu from Veiled Dragon Pavilion. While he might not have found anyone from the mortal domain worth his attention, back then he was too broke and too powerless not to become sworn brothers, with his best options, to speed up his development plan. It was his lack of propriety that got the same clan turned into the enormous faction that was today. Looking at Ouyang Changqing, Zhuo Fan was looking at himself and smiled. Brother Ouyang, weren't you calling my clan the strongest? Then just watch the Zhuo clan's might. I find it beneath me addressing some Sword Kings, leaving it to the kids, ha ha ha. Everyone gasped, their eyes big. Dude, that's quite a mouth you have. You can show off, yes, but that's going overboard. Sending a 6-year-old girl to deal with Sword Kings? Is your clan made up of gods now? Besides Zhuo Fan, taking his sweet time walking off, the others were rooted to their spots, all staring at the cute Qiaoer with skepticism. They were just too damn curious how the child could fight 3 Sword Kings in the soul harmony stage. They wanted to test her limits and Zhuo Fan's wild boasting. Ouyang Lingtian and the other 2 were gripping their divine swords, ready to strike as well. If Qiaoer couldn't handle it, they would protect her. It was too much of a shame to bear, having a 6-year-old dying to protect these old coots. Their pride was on the line here. The Sword Kings were just as tense, though never considering Qiaoer from the start. Having seen her to be in the soul harmony stage from the 3 lightning attacks, they no longer cared. They only had eyes for Zhuo Fan. Brother Yin, the plan was to take the kid's head to get some credit, but then these 3 geezer came to give us their swords. Taking them to Patriarch, as well, will give us an even bigger commendation. Maybe Patriarch will even let us have them once he finish learning their arts. Then we'll become the only ones among the 9 Sword Kings to wield divine swords. None will be our equals, hee hee hee. One Sword King spoke to Bailey Yiyun, who nodded and shouted, "What are we waiting for? Kill them and take the swords." The Sword Kings laughed and went for Ouyang Lingtian and Zhuofan, full of excitement at the prospects of a glorious future. Xiao never even registered as their target. Ouyang Lingtian turned grave, flicking his sword and pointing it at the incoming Sword Kings. "Come on! You'll have to pry our sword from our cold, dead hands." "Isn't that obvious? We came to do just that, ha ha ha." Bailey Yiyun cackled, focusing his sword energy, drifting and floating. He waved and lightning cracked, striking fear and all as the sword energy split into three and shot for them. The three's brows shook, sweat building on their brows. They used their divine swords to block, gnashing their teeth and getting ready for impact. A bang resounded from the impact, but not with their swords. It was a streak of golden energy that shot for the three sword energies. Bailey Yiyun gasped, "What is that?" Boom! He had no time to make sense of it as the raging golden flames surged and punched a huge hole in the sky. The golden light and the three sword energies clashed in a terrible explosion, dyeing the skies golden with the searing flames. The shockwave spread everywhere for thousands of miles, burning anything to a crisp. Ouyang Lingtian and the other two had their divine swords to shield them, but the power was so great they coughed blood still. The blood never got to touch the ground, burned in the air before it reached it. Only Qiao smiled, her twin tails swaying with the heat waves unaffected. Zhuofan never looked back still, walking away with a smirk. "Here's your strongest clan, ha ha ha." Chapter 1078, Unstoppable Ambush. Chapter 1078, Unstoppable Ambush. Proofreader Papatonks. Plop. The scorching golden flames filled the skies. Three men were suddenly flung to the side, broken and wrecked, with even their black hair singed as they all coughed up a lot of blood. Finally stabilizing their condition, the Sword Kings looked pale as death. Their early confidence and mocking smirks were wiped off their faces, looking panicky and in shock at the golden conflagration, and at the sweet innocent girl behind it. Only the 6-year-old girl's smile looked like the devil's to them. No matter how impressed they were of her before, they still couldn't believe she would end up so outrageously powerful. One strike had them falling back in wounds. This is impossible. Eyes shook, hearts quaked. The golden inferno was reflected on their terrified faces, turning their legs into jelly and robbing them of all courage. They were pushed back, all three of them, and given injuries. A couple more of that, and they'd be breathing their last, even Sword Kings as they were. That thing is a killing machine. Blast that Bali Yu for not doing her job right. Her report is leagues behind reality. If the Missy is so tough, what about the big guy? The trio's hearts sank, not wanting to go down that road. Ha ha ha, get a load of my power. Qiao wiggled her brows in pride and laughed as golden flames burned in front. Listen up and listen good. That was just a warning. Take one more step, and you'll have me to answer to. The trio's hearts jumped in their chests, taking a step back in fright. The imperial family from the central area would have gone wide-eyed from shock. Three great and strong Sword Kings ended up terrified and cowering before some kid. The reality was, the girl was just that damn dangerous, that not even a Sword King could mess with her. Ouyang Changqing's jaw hit the floor, becoming numb from shock. He had to see it to believe it. The kid is so deadly that she can destroy a Sword King with every strike. Standing there frozen in shock, Ouyang Changqing took a long time to come back to reality. He whipped his head at Zhuofan and stammered. "Be big brother Zhua. Are all in your clan like that? What the hell got you so monstrous?" "Not monstrous, but the strongest clan, no?" Zhuofan smirked. "Brother Ouyang, you said my clan is the strongest, and while I dislike showing off, sometimes you have to take a stand. Won't everyone treat your words like bragging otherwise? Ha ha ha, just leave this to Qiao. You should hurry instead, and look after your father to leave this place. It's not safe at all here." With a wide smile, Zhuofan kept on walking, showing off his straight back. Ouyang Changqing was in awe as he muttered, "Damn, I made the right bet after all." The Zhuo clan is outrageous, and now I'm set to get in, ha ha ha. My foresight is the best, ugh, forget my old man. Only now he recalled how the previous mighty blast sent the three seniors flying. The shock of Qiao's super ridiculous power had him blanked out till now, waking up at last to the fact that his father needed help. The three old men were slumped on the searing ground blinking at the golden inferno, and at Qiao, even forgetting about their wounds. They were in the same state as the three sword kings. Besides shock, they were more in awe. There's actually something so ridiculously insane in this world as a 6-year-old girl capable of. Dad, this is no time to gawk, not with your wounds. Big brother Zhuo wants us to leave, so let's go. Ouyang Changqing rushed over and pulled on Ouyang Lingtian's hand over his shoulder. The others heard his yell and finally reacted, going to the other two to help them out. Yet the three old guys were still out of it, unable to process what had just transpired, eyes staring blankly at Qiao. Someone's always above you. For the first time ever, they felt this saying on their own skin. There was no such thing as the strongest in this world, and there might even be more out there better than you. Men need to know respect and not be arrogant. The trio were taken away as they sighed with lowered heads. They were the strongest in their lands, at the top of the world, with only the invincible sword standing above them. They were all civilized men, but being constantly affected by their status made them develop unhealthy pride in themselves while disregarding all others. They only saw the invincible sword as their real opponent. Qiao now showed them, slapped them hard awake. There were countless young heroes out there, beyond even what these old relics could achieve. Wu Qingqiu's team gave Qiao one last look before realizing that Zhuo Fan's daughter did have the power to block the Sword Kings. Even as baffled and stunned as they were, they could not misplace the safety they felt. Without hesitating any longer, they dragged the three seniors after Zhuo Fan. Yilin stepped livelier, catching up to him, whispering, "Elder brother, did Qiao use a dragon breath pill?" "Yeah. How many do you have?" "If she uses them all, then nothing will stop them." "Relax," Dragon Ancestor gave her 10. "I bet 3 are enough to rip even those Sword Kings to pieces." Zhuo Fan smirked in confidence. Yilin flinched and gasped, "So many? Master is playing favorites. He only gave me a couple last time, and now he just gives away 10. On top of that, they're even stronger? And he even said the dragon breath pill drains him a lot, liar. This shows he cares more about the girl than me." "I don't think so, since I provoked him into giving them, and our mission this time is too dangerous. Dragon Ancestor just gave us a little something to be prepared for whatever comes our way." "Dangerous? Elder brother, weren't you in a rush to seal the world wind tunnels? Why have you come to the northern lands? Can I help?" "Most likely not." Zhuo Fan shook his head, turning serious. "To be honest, I came to the North Sea to find heaven sealing Cao. But then I heard he has a foul temper, treating humans like they're his bitter enemies. So I came prepared. You can't get involved. The more we are before the sacred beast, the worse it would probably be. There's no point in wasting your life. I'll have to play it by ear and see if I can get him to cooperate." Recalling his master's strength, Yilin nodded in understanding, then sighed and gave up. And so, the team left their backs in Qiao's care as they moved with speed for the teleportation array. The Sword Kings looked through the golden fire wall with anxiety and gnashed teeth. To get to them, they first had to get through Qiao and her cold smile, though they were feeling a bit fearful. The girl is outrageous. But the problem is her dad. How strong is he? In the case he's even stronger than her, then we have it worse. Chasing did not sound so pleasant right now. "Curse you, Bailey Yu, and your rotten report. We were all minding our business, and would have kept it like this instead of offending this monster pair. Now that all gloves are off, we need to finish them now or suffer later. But how the hell are we to do that?" They had deep frowns, and filled with blame for Bali Yu, cursing her to the high heavens. Whoosh! A sudden gale blew, and a tall figure loomed over them from behind. An aged and rumbling voice shook the air. "What happened? Why such a huge ruckus?" Patriarch. Shuddering, The Sword Kings turned around at once and bowed. Greetings, Patriarch. Chapter 1079, Hard to Block. Chapter 1079, Hard to Block. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. Invincible sword flashed before the three with coldness in his eyes. What happened here? Report. Patriarch, we were stopping Zhuofan and Ouyang Lingtian's group of 3 divine swords wielders. The trio tensed and answered at once. Bailey Yutian's beard shook, but then grinned. That's great then. The heads and the swords I wanted gathered in one place. Well, where are they? Are off. The trio's faces twitched, feeling apprehensive as they glanced at Bailey Yutian shaking all over. His features twisted as he roared. Ran off? How the hell did they just run off? Because. And why are you still standing here like fools and not going after them? Bailey Yutian cut through their stammering as he raged on. The trio looked at each other with bitter gazes. When Bailey Yutian finally scrounged up his courage to point at Xiaoer. Patriarch, we failed you, stopped by this little girl. We couldn't do anything. Please show leniency, Patriarch. A little girl? Bailey Yutian narrowed his eyes, scanning Xiaoer. So this is the one you say that blocked you? Yes, Patriarch, she's always been with that Zhuofan. Her innocent, cute and joyful manner is just a front for the real. Bam! Bailey Yutian and the other 2 found themselves flung away by a sudden release of immense power. Even as he talked, they bled once more, coughing and paling. Bailey Yutian's eyes burned hot with his anger. I don't need excuses. You're nothing but dead waste for even a little girl to stop you. Yes. The trio took the critique with a deep bow. Bailey Yutian turned his attention to Xiaoer, showing off a cold smile. Ha ha ha. Devil Mountain isn't the empty lie I thought it to be. There's some truth to it, I see. Missy, you sure are something to stop these 3, even if they're more or less garbage. Better believe it, humph. Xiaoer scoffed and raised her cute face with excessive pride. Those 3 don't know reason, so I only set them straight. Old coot, if you know what's good for you, disappear from my sight. Dad said none of you can cross this line. Or what? Bailey Yutian smiled. Xiaoer smirked, her eyes flashing coldly. What I'm going to do to old geezer like you is cremate you. You got quite the mouth on you. Bailey Yutian shook his head, giving a scornful look and smile. He just walked towards the golden fire, one step at a time, like he was out on a stroll. Missy, you're the first to ever talk to me like that since I started on my path. Show me then, just what skills you have to back up that overconfidence, ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian laughed, letting it loose as his bulk neared Xiaoer. Xiaoer stared at him, her face growing hard. Then her hand flashed with a golden ball of fire. The violent and destructive air it gave spoke of death and horrors. Old coot, you asked for it. You only got yourself to blame for ending up in pieces by insisting on crossing the line. There's no line that can't be crossed, only the strength to do so. Glancing at the ball in Xiaoer's hand and sensing its power, Bailey Yutian was first amazed then excited as he quickened his pace. He couldn't wait to test Xiaoer's strength. So that's what got those 3 fools to eat dirt. Ha ha ha, not bad at all. I can feel the flood of power coming off it. Though it's not yours, miss. But to have it proves Devil Mountain is more than it seems. I so wish I could meet a real Devil Mountain expert. It would make death worth it. Oh, you're going to see one alright right now. Xiaoer's eyes flashed, and the dragon breath pill whistled through the air for Bailey Yutian. Boom! The golden light shot like a start, smashing for Bailey Yutian at top speed. It followed with a tremendous explosion, not unlike the previous one, shaking the world around for thousands of miles. The Golden Inferno released decimating shockwaves that engulfed half of the Sea-Bright sect and destroyed veritable monuments, having survived for thousands of years. As for the mighty invincible sword himself, it got swallowed up by the raging flames. The Sword Kings gasped in panic, Patriarch. There was no answer, giving the sinking feeling the old expert's body crumbled under the onslaught of fire. The Sword Kings slumped in shock. Xiaoer giggled and mocked. That's what you get for pushing it. And he still went on about seeing some Devil Mountain true expert. Happy now? I am none other than such an expert of Devil Mountain. So rest in pieces, hee hee hee. Ha ha ha. Every true expert out there can use their own power to twist the world to their whim. An aged voice of disdain echoed from the flames. Miss, you've got a good talent, the makings of a great expert. It's a shame, though, that you're quite far from being one, with your childish use of another's power. Allow me to show you what a true expert can do. Rumble. Lightning crackled all of a sudden, and a savage sword wave crossed the skies and split the inferno. Invincible Sword appeared in sight, taking his time as he walked out, casual as before. With every step, rumbling echoed out. The golden flames crumbled with a sudden bang as purple lightning thundered high above, tearing into the golden fires until nothing remained. The inferno soon turned into a purple thunderstorm. Bailey Yutian thus became the overlord of this storm. With him here, the golden flames would never burn again. Patriarch! The Sword Kings cheered. Xiao shook, looking at the old man in disbelief. And no way! Dragon Ancestor's Dragon Breath Pill did nothing? What is he? Dragon Breath Pill, ha ha ha. Was that what you threw? Bailey Yutian's eyes shone with bloodthirst. His steps measured as he got closer to Xiao. This toy is good enough to deal with the Sword King. It even made me twitch. Ha ha ha. How many years has it been since someone managed to make me feel numb? I'm really curious now as to who made this Dragon Breath Pill. Though no matter how great, it's still a crutch, while true experts wield endless strength from within. That's what I want to fight, not some child throwing toys at me. So I will ask you again, Missy, does Devil Mountain have any experts? Ha ha ha. Xiao's brow shook, staring hard at Invincible Sword's stature growing bigger as he neared. She flinched back in reflex, her hand holding another Dragon Breath Pill. Bailey Yutian noticed and shook his head. Miss, so you chose to ignore me. I told you, I have no interest in such toys. Whoosh. Xiao threw the second Dragon Breath Pill and cut him off. Then have another taste, geezer. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.